You guys, welcome to What We Watch. Uh, let's just start by saying, I'm not gonna lie to y'all. I started watching this movie a week ago. I legit, and I'm gonna repeat what I just said. I started watching that movie a week ago. Okay, so it took me 7 days to finish this movie. 7 days. How long did it take y'all to finish this movie? It took me 7 days to finish this movie to the point where up to today, I had to watch the last 10 minutes. Okay.
Hey y'all. Um, it took me. I watched the 2.5 hours of the movie, but I knew about 25 minutes in that it was trash.
Okay.
Listen. I'll let Jamel go, and then James, and then I'll chime in.
I guess I'm gonna be the dissenting opinion in here. While I didn't love it, and definitely found it lacking as compared to its originals, I still was entertained, and for me, it's always about looking at it from a writer's perspective and a creator's perspective of the daunting task at hand. No matter what, I think it's far more likely you're going to fall under people's expectations when the first thing was such a legend, whatever
Right.
that thing might be, than it is that you're going to either meet or go over the expectations. And so it was already that. And then the idea is, how do you even come back to something like this when you really sealed it up seemingly in the first one? So I was looking for what was their way back in, and I found it interesting the way that they found a way back into this to reframe this for a new generation. I just felt as though, so the ideas were good to sum it all up. I just thought the execution in a lot of ways was poor.
Okay, that's
That makes sense.
that's very fair because you got to think. Um, this is the fourth movie of a franchise that started in 1999, and a lot of people, quite frankly, didn't like the third one. So most of this, and welcome everybody chiming in. I just wanted to full disclosure. The first few people got to hear me say this, but it took me 7 days to watch this movie. So it's never taken me that long to watch a movie. And so I watched the last 10 minutes today. I had to piecemeal it like heavily. Y'all don't understand. I watched 15 minutes, then another 30. Then I needed Jamisa's help from there, my lovely co-host. So from there, I was able to give us another 45 minutes. And then I had to watch 15 minutes by myself. And then today I watched the last 10 minutes. So I just want us to walk through. Like I said, that does not mean that I hate the movie. But it obviously definitely doesn't mean that I loved it. I need a little bit more, and we're gonna get into it. But welcome to What We Watch. Hashtag What We Watch with any of your takes or your ideas or thoughts about what we talk about in here. We'll be in here for an hour or so, and follow What We Watch Film TV and my lovely co-host Mies.
Hey y'all, add your tweets.
Yes, if you're a speaker, please come on up and add your tweets about the Matrix if you did, and raise your hand like Nat is doing. So I said my piece. I just wanted to hear everybody else's. So Jamel went. Who was next? Nat, you went.
I think we were gonna let James go, and then I know we've gotten some new people in, so they can.
Okay,
I'm
James.
sorry, really quickly, I just wanted to ask, how do you add your tweets again?
So go to a tweet and click the little upload button at the bottom right, and then the first thing it'll say is shared in the space.
Got it.
So go to any tweet, somebody else's tweet, your tweet. There's no. I think that's funny because now I need to know if people sharing my tweets in other spaces. But so James, and then I see your hand up, DLJ. After that, James. I said my piece. Jamel said his. What you got? James Maloney.
He hopped away.
James Maloney. Click the unmute button bottom left. If not, go ahead, DLJ. We'll come back to you, James.
Okay, National Guard. Yes, we want to hear from you.
Okay, I appreciate it. So, after watching the movie, and seeing a lot of people's takes on it, I think what it really is suffering the most is trying to compare it to the first one. And I think that's more of the issue with the movie. Yes, the movie had its confusing points and, and other issues, but I think trying to compare it to the first Matrix is pretty much this movie's downfall.
Well, was it the downfall for 2 and 3 as well? Just me, guys. You know me asking questions.
Well, full disclosure, I did not see 2 or 3.
Okay, because we gonna table that commentary about.
That's interesting.
No, I haven't. I mean, honestly, that's part of what I. So thank you for saying that because that's part of my issue. But Mies has an eloquent way to share it too. But I'll just kind of preface. I think it relied very heavily on understanding 1, 2, and 3 fully, which I don't know if that's the responsibility of us or marketing or whomst, what's, where, when, why. But I don't remember a lot of 1, 2, or 3, to be honest. Like I remember some of it as people say it, but going into 4, I was like, why is he in red goop? And she was like, oh, remember, there's red goop. I was like, okay, yes, now I remember. But it's just so weird seeing it 20, 30 years later. Who was next? Okay, Mies, you can go. And then we'll let Sniper, James, if you figured it out. And then welcome, Tiki. So go ahead, Mies.
Okay, so I want to start off by saying I did add some tweets to the top. They are very generic because if you follow me, I was live tweeting, but I was intentionally trying to be vague so that I wouldn't spoil it for anyone. But at the same time, in the multiple sessions of rewatching with Peach, all I did was circle back to the tweets. Like they still carried over. So one of the things I said was that I think the movie may have overly relied on its own genius / canon / cleverness, for lack of a better word. And I won't necessarily say that is, you know, directly tied to having watched the previous films. I think that it's quite possible that if it were as with, but I don't think that's what happened. I think that there were
Hold
so
on,
many callbacks.
you cut out the last 2 things. So repeat that last sentence for me, because you cut out.
I think that there were a lot of callbacks.
Mm-hmm.
And so it kind of forced you to have seen the other, the previous movies so that you can identify those callbacks. But at the same time, as someone who had seen those other movies and remembered them, the current content of Matrix 4 was inadequate, unfortunately, just because it's like the number of callbacks means you were revisiting so many things that had already been done in a great way, only to have them done in a not as great way. So I get what you're saying about maybe having to watch it anew, and maybe we shouldn't be comparing the movies, but I think they forced you to.
Right, because how did y'all feel? We'll let people, get their first few bars off, but like, just to mind, how did y'all feel about the numerous flashbacks? I mean, if I go back and count, probably in the first 45 minutes, there were like at least 7 to 8, and they were very, very ephemeral, right? Like, it was just a second of a flash to show the comparisons, and I think there was an attempt there to jog your memory. But again, jogging my memory for a movie that came out 1, 2 years ago is fine. But jogging my memory for a movie that came out 20 years ago, it's like, I'm kind of struggling here. Not 20, but like 10, 15, whatever. I don't know how to count. So, I don't need to know how to count. That's fine. Lady Sniper, how did you feel? Initial thoughts. Just get your quick, concise initial thoughts off.
Hello, everyone. Personally, I feel like they waited too long to make a movie where there are so many callbacks. With the other 3, they did come out obviously in closer succession, so you were able to relate to them a lot better. But with this one, it feels like a new movie where there's way too many characters, and they're trying to introduce them and give you backstories so that you can learn everyone within the first hour again. Like it's just too long to try to call back, and so much has happened in between that they should have just started from scratch.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. Exactly that. James, did you figure out your mic yet? Okay, James, we're gonna have to kick you down, but if you can come right back up and figure out how to speak, please come on up. Tiki, preliminary thoughts, because I'm sharing my tweets up top just like you guys. And go to any tweet about this movie or any other movie that pertains to the discussion. Click the upload button and share your tweets up at the top. Tiki, how did you feel?
So I started watching at 7:00 in the morning, the day of the movie. I don't know what to say. I'm just here to support my fellow people here in the room.
And
You
we
started
love
watching
that.
at 7 o'clock in the morning, and that's all you
And
have to
that's
say.
it. I
When
think
I
Okay.
get
that's a
scared, I
statement.
watch it from the
So,
beginning to the end. I like the fighting, but I promise you, I'm so lost. So
okay.
I'm here to
And you're
support
definitely here to maybe get a little bit less lost.
you.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I think I'm okay with being lost. I think I'm perfectly okay with it. I think I understood and internalized enough. I mean, if you've ever been in any What We Watch space, I say the same things. One of my recurring themes is everything is about love and romance. And so the way this movie went from dropping bodies to grounds in a really weird, fucked up way to it being about love and romance, I was like, okay, cool. Everything is about that. So, Nat, your hand was up.
Yeah. So I pinned my tweet up top, and basically I said the new Matrix movie isn't bad, it's terrible. Um I literally, that was my first initial thoughts of watching it. Like I said, 25 minutes, I just knew it was going to be absolute trash. Um, I just think that, the ones from 20 years ago, the one of the special parts of those movies was the technology.
Mm-hmm.
Everything looked like it was before its time.
Absolutely.
So
Yes.
it added a different element to it where they had to run to the phone. They had to get to this phone, get to that phone. It just helped the movie so
And
much.
did you notice that was also a callback?
It
Did you
was, but
recognize that there was a conversation and he was like, well, we don't have to run to the phone booth now? And it's
I
like, well,
that's when
that
I
was
knew it was
so
gonna be
much.
trash. I was like, right there. If you're not running to the phone, buddy, I don't need you to pick up the cell phone, whatever. I was like, run to the damn landline. And then Morpheus, terrible. I do did
Oh.
like that guy was horrid. Like in that film. The fashion was also terrible.
Say that. Say
But
that one more time. Say that one more time. Just touch on that real quick
Wardrobe?
too.
Wardrobe?
the
Are we
Touch
wardrobe,
for
attacking
me.
wardrobe right now?
the wardrobe was horrible.
Boo boo.
Like
So,
Boo boo.
it
so
was just
you
it was
know,
bad. Like I'm just
Jamel, and I saw your hand up. So here's my
oh
thing.
snap.
Um, I don't always like to call art bad unless it really is. And, Um, I think I'm pretty neutral on this. Why I'm neutral on this is because I think there was a failure systematically on how to roll this movie out. And so I'm trying to figure out what the hell they thought this was going to be, because these movies, like you said, Nat, you made a great point. There was a timing and a consecutive like thing with the first three movies, but I was able to enjoy the universe. I was able to enjoy the world. I was able to enjoy the Matrix as is. And then the fourth movie comes out, and it's like, and I'm wondering now, guys, I'm going to present this to the room. Are we too far from like the phone booth conversation that we just had? Are we too close to the Matrix now to where we're not as impressed? Like, quite literally in real life, like, the Matrix is no longer as impressive. I'm going to add that, or maybe they just didn't build the world enough to impress us. Also, I had an additional thought, and then I'll let Jamel speak. The second act, or the end of the first act into the second act, which is basically marked by the exiles and meeting all of them, right when things kind of finally turned up after getting off that little subway train or whatever. That felt like a TV show. I don't know if you guys have watched like any really kind of criminal shows, or like the Burn Notice, or like shows like that. The lighting and the acting and the pacing felt like I was watching a TV show, not a movie. It was lighted differently than the rest of the film. I don't know if that was on purpose. The dialogue was much slower. It was actually, no, it was much faster, but it was much like more exposition and just like sitting with. And I was like, this feels like a separate part of the movie. And that was very interesting to me, because I don't know why they filmed that section of the movie like that. It felt like it stood alone. So, Jamel, go ahead.
Yeah. So for me, number one, I start with when I'm watching movies that I see are disappointing me in some way, shape, or form. Then the first thing is to assume a good faith that they wanted to make a good movie. Then break down, okay, well, how do they get to this point? And it's still a guessing game. But the point being that when I pay attention to that exposition that you were alluding to, And the things that they were doing, number one, I have to commend them for, again, the good try at. I think a lot of people are misconceiving that they were trying to do callbacks and trying to renew everybody's love. Actually, this movie is very clear that it doesn't really want to deal with those old movies at all. As a matter of fact, it's trying to step itself away from there and say, how would you create an amazing? And the whole idea being set upon or a foundation built upon the idea that a lot of times these systems, we think we've beat them, and all they do is just come up with a new and different way to do everything. And that's why so much was different, because the movie is hinged on this idea of the way that these sort of systems re-eat and gobble us up with just, new upholstery. And it was in those, when you really listen to that dialogue, those whole things they were saying about Warner Brothers, you could tell even that there's a clear, like, oh, we don't really fuck with these cats. We're doing this in a sense because we have to.
Correct.
And
that
we
was
want to find a way.
evident. It was meta within meta within meta.
So the thing being from there, the failures came to me, like I said, again, in execution. And a lot of people are speaking to this, and I think it's absolutely correct, which is that you have to still pay attention to things like fighting. I personally thought the fighting was bad. Especially knowing that
Now we talking.
John Wick guy was on it. I don't know how the quality dropped so poorly from those movies that he did to this one, but it just wasn't good. And then on top of that, there was, I think, notes of acting. I think what this movie was mainly missing, I wrote in my piece that I felt the ghost of Morpheus all throughout this movie. And there were a lot of like actors that were solid to me.
Right.
Like very few people was like, oh, you're horrible.
Right.
But I did find people that I think were miscasted, and I did find no one holding the weight that Lawrence Fishburne brought to those movies. As well as Hugo Weaving as Mr. Smith.
That is absolutely 100% correct. I fully fucking agree with that. The ghost of Morpheus is a beautiful way to say it. That's what was lingering. As we go, I'm going to go to Mies and then welcome Mess. I think this might be your first What We Watch, so welcome. Follow What We Watch Film TV. I'm going to let y'all sit with the question for a little bit, those of you that are up here. What did you expect going into this movie? And did you watch did you remember the first, second, and third? That's for after Mies and Mess respond. But I want to understand what the expectation was for this movie as a Matrix movie and this movie as a movie in and of itself, how you enter any movie. So go ahead, Mies.
So I'm going to say that, and I think this kind of actually ties into your question, but and Jamel's, what he was saying kind of triggered this thought. I'm totally fine with this being a separate movie. And I understand that, the first three movies were a part of a trilogy, i.e. it was, the same story continued over three separate films. Fine. But you can't bring, Keanu Reeves as a Neo character with the same name as his previous character, and Trinity, Carrie-Anne Moss as a character, or as Tiffany with the same name as Trinity. Like, you can't have all these callbacks and then be like, oh, they're not callbacks. They're callbacks. Furthermore, to the extent that you have all these callbacks and then don't have any of the action, the fashions, the Morpheus, or any of those other things that were included in the first. Okay, I won't say that you can't not do that, but you have to replace it with something else, and they fell short on that. So I think that one of the tweets that I added up there, and Mo, you know this because I told you, is that the shit didn't start moving until a minute and 45 seconds into the movie. I know the exact moment because I set up a whole almost 2 hours, and I'm a perfect fan. In every room that you have, Mo, I will always say I'm a fan of a movie about nothing. I'm a fan of movies not doing anything, but this went too far for me. And the meta-ness got too meta without any actual activity. So I appreciate Jamel's opinion, but I'm gonna have to differ on that.
And I appreciate you saying the word activity, because I rely heavily on the Matrix to present activity. Jamel, to your point, some fighting. I expect the fighting scenes to be good. I expect there to be activity. And there was a lot of, I don't even know if I can call it exposition, because exposition provides clarity. It provides some sort of, you know what I mean? And I don't know that I got that either. And so if the callbacks aren't actually callbacks, I don't really have proper exposition, and there's not really a lot going on. Like, me personally, I just wasn't invested in most of the movie until about 30, 40 minutes left.
The only thing I
And
was invested in were the callbacks. And I was waiting
right,
for the callbacks to come to fruition, and they just kept not coming to fruition.
right. And so the last 30 minutes, I don't know if you ever, want to waste your time a little bit, and I'm just kidding. If you do want to go back and enjoy it from a cinematic perspective only, the score changes significantly for the last 30, 45 minutes of the movie. And if you know anything about me, like, I feel like composers should get way more for movies, and sound is like what carries a movie. And so once the score finally started picking up, my levity and my trust for the movie to be okay or good or interesting, or again, I like this word, activity. The Matrix is like almost synonymous with activity. Things are happening. Things always need to be happening in the Matrix. There's high stakes here in the Matrix. Red pill, blue pill. And I don't know, it didn't get me really committed. It took me 7 days to watch the movie.
And
So,
let's not
mess.
underestimate the fact, I'm sorry, really quickly, let's not underestimate the fact that the whole idea behind the Matrix is that one thing is happening, like you're doing all this activity in the Matrix, while in reality, this other thing is happening once you're unplugged and outside the Matrix. So the fact that there was no activity in the Matrix, no activity
Right.
outside the Matrix, it's a little questionable. Sorry.
Right. And so I need to see that. I love that you said that again. And Mass, I'm gonna let you speak now. I need to see that stark contrast. I need to see there's a bunch of activity on this side, and juxtaposed with whatever is happening on the other side. And there could be, and I think that might be, there was just not enough distance between that, which again didn't drive home the stakes for me. Like, what are we doing? Mess, welcome to What We Watch. What do you think? Preliminary thoughts.
What up, Bo? Thank you for having me. So I actually liked it,
Okay.
and I'll preface. So, and personally for you, like the first time I saw it, I was in Panama. I was playing on a national team, and I saw the first Matrix like 10 times because there was nothing else to do in Panama at the time, and it just came out, and it was amazing,
My
right?
country.
So I was so like it's always been near and dear to my heart, and so but the way I
Good.
looked at this as even at the very beginning, right, and you see when they talk about, man, that looks like her, but that's not really her. You start to get a feeling of, okay, this is different. And so, what they said was, even with like the way the analyst was like, the Matrix has been reinvented so many different times, right? And it's each iteration of it, they do something different. And this is why there were things there, and I feel like the pieces that were supposed to be like the Trinity and Neo and Morpheus is different. There's an evolution of it, right? Because even with like software, something changes. We might love something about a user interface, and the developers go and change it. And now all of a sudden we're pissed because we like that button there, we like that color. And so you guys look at the movie as like a computer creation, because that's really what it is. And then they got meta, but the whole thought of like you're living inside this box, you're living inside this program, and everything about that is changing.
Mess,
Go ahead.
Go ahead. No,
go ahead.
I have to ask you, what did you like about the first movie? What did you love about the first movie?
I love the fact that Neo had a thought of like, my life is boring, it's mundane, but there's something else out there, and he chased that. And once he chased it, he realized like, this is bigger than what I thought it was. But he had that feeling, and I think what this one did was it went a little further, because this time it went from the angle of Trinity, right?
Right. So you know where I was going. So right. It went from the angle of Trinity, but at what point did we recognize that it was from the angle of Trinity? At what point did they introduce that, if that is so heavily dependent on that? That's my concern.
Because if you remember in the first movie, it took him a while to actually be like, all right, I'm gonna take this pill and we gonna go.
That's true.
But this time he was there immediately, and he understood like, okay, and even his recognition of Morpheus saying like, yo, you put me in this box, you did this, you set this up, because he knew in the back of his mind, he knew. But Trinity, it was a lot longer. And so for me, again, having seen how this plays out, like the first, it was about the one. This is about the dichotomy. And that's what's different about the way this is set up. And even as the analyst talked about, he's like, yo, like these two together are what generates so much energy and power for us. I can't keep you together. I can't have you be together. I can have you close, but I can't have you together. And so everything, and that's why I liked it, because now you've got the different angle. And if you also remember, The Matrix was about the brothers and their change, and their transition, and their change, and how they saw the world, how they felt, confined to this box. Like this wasn't who they really were. And if you really, and so now you've got the two of them out. The two of them have transitioned, right? And now we're at this binary. And so that's how I'm looking at it. Like, yes, like some of the things suck. Yes, Morpheus was goofy. Yes, like the fight scenes, even with the fight scenes, I think. But I also think that a lot of those things were just tweaked a little bit from the UI perspective.
Yeah. And so, and also the appreciation of like the novelty is not there as it was in 1999.
Right, because we're expecting like bullet time, we're expecting those things, and we're like, yo, what are they gonna do to wow us? And I mean, to me, I thought this was really them level setting for what's gonna come in the next film. Because
to read another one. Oh no. Oh no.
There's gonna be another one. You can't just do one and be like,
I think they can.
The story where it at.
Well, they have to,
I think
but
they
have to because the way they ended the movie. But
unless
Jamel, go ahead. Oh, go ahead.
No worries. Go ahead, Jamel.
I just wanted to jump off a little bit on something that Mess was saying, because so much of what he's saying, that's exactly what I was talking about. That is exactly the parts of the movie that I liked. But I also want to give a little piecemeal connecting those two of what you guys have been saying, what you disliked with what he liked and I liked, in the fact that when you talk about the fighting, I understood completely that they were changing that, as well as many things. I think even the colorization of the film, they changed that because, again, this is a new Matrix. Everything was about the new software. The same point being that still, even when you do that, that doesn't mean because you've changed it, it has to look bad, though. And to me, you have to keep in mind that still, when you were doing revolutionary things then you should be looking to do revolutionary things now. That fighting changed the whole entire way we watch action films. Before then, it was mostly almost guns. And if you watch Die Hard, they're like mainly punching with their fist. And you go all the way up through action to The Rock, Bad Boys. People were not using martial arts like that. And then all of a sudden, The Matrix comes out, and every movie's in bullet time, and every movie's featuring this particular type of fight scene. And so you really need to come
it in a certain way.
Exactly. And now we have John Wick. And that's changed the game. And you're going to come in, and this is what you like. You still could have done great. So to me, while I still hold space for that, I clearly saw, hey, we're trying to do something different. I still feel the correction is there. Exactly.
That's the thing for me. It wasn't better. And the action that they did have was like, it was incredibly slow. It was, I told Mo that this was a Zack Snyder cut. It was in slow motion. Like everything was in slow motion. Like in the Snyder cut of Justice League, like everything was slow motion. And for the previous Matrix to have been, like Jamel was saying, for the action to have been so good and so fast paced and everything else, and for them to come with this slow motion action and then for it to be low key mid, it just missed the mark to me.
Exactly. Fully agree. Ham on Rye, welcome. Welcome to What We Watch. Of course.
Yeah, I just want to add into there that did anyone notice that Neo never touched the firewall in this entire film?
Never touched the what?
The firewall.
No, a firearm. He never had a gun.
Oh, okay. I thought you were getting real, Matrix meta in us all.
No.
More meta.
So he never touched a firearm. Okay.
Yeah, he never touches a firearm in this entire film, and it's like that's.
Honestly, Neo didn't do a lot in this movie, to be honest with you.
He did very little.
Yeah,
he did very little.
He didn't even look as if he wanted to be there.
He looked like no offense, this is not to be offensive, like a Gen Xer boomer that's like in like a younger place and like wants to be cool and hang out.
Bye, Mo. I'm tired of your age.
But like,
see it coming.
Like,
I know
even
what's
in
about
the end, though.
What's he?
Like, even in the end, he's 46. I'm not even gonna put him on y'all. He is 46.
Well, see, here's the thing. Here's what I don't understand is that how did he go from looking how he does, like vibrant in John Wick, which is what, like 5, 6 years old, to where he rolls over into the Matrix Resurrection and he just looks haggard and tired. Like,
No, I'm gonna
is
No,
this
hold on.
is this
you're
prosthetics?
I'm
Like,
gonna help you
did they
out,
not
Ham.
de-age him?
Ham, I'm gonna
no,
help
I
you out
fully
because I
agree.
can tell you the exact moment because I laughed every time it happened. When he was trying to fly and he did that little sorry ass jump and his midriff was showing, I was like, oh, my nigga is washed. My guy is washed.
Okay,
And that's
so
when I got fed the fuck up.
we've gotten to the point where I have to make a confession. Okay, I have a confession.
Here you go.
I adore
Here
you
you go.
guys. I
Here
am
you go.
so sorry.
Don't you do it. Don't you do it, mommy.
Keanu Reeves has never done anything for me, guys. I am so sorry about this. He has
I mean,
never
that's
done
Brody.
anything for me, ever, never. And unfortunately, you know, I don't like to talk about actors like that because I recognize he's beautiful. One of my favorite performances by Keanu Reeves is in that movie, that romance movie. What it was it called on Netflix? I don't remember the name, but he had a little scene where he was like a date of the woman, and it was like a very random kind of
Always
cameo.
be my maybe.
Always Be My Baby, maybe. Okay, there you go.
Always be my maybe was hilarious.
His cameo in Always Be My Maybe was his best performance to me. That's how I feel. I want y'all to know that. Now, the reason why you can still trust me here is because I recognize why people like him, and he somehow
Well,
attractive. But
have
the
you ever seen him
mid,
play? Sorry, have you ever seen him play Johnny Utah in Point Break?
yes, I did.
Okay.
So here's my thing. Here's what I'm gonna not caveat, but here's what I'm gonna say. The way I feel about Nicolas Cage and Keanu Reeves is that I would recast them in quite literally every movie. I would cast someone else in every role that they've ever played. That being said, since you know my
Nicolas
friends know
Cage
this about me.
slander. This is
Yes,
interesting.
I
Appropriate.
know,
It's appropriate.
I'm getting
Nicolas
It's
Cage
hard.
is a
appropriate.
phenomenal
You guys
actor.
are like,
He
what the
just
hell is
doesn't care
going
to
on?
act.
That's why I didn't record this one, because I'm just deny. That being said, Keanu is not my favorite. Now, since I have friends that I've said this to before, they have been on a train to make sure that I find some love for Keanu Reeves and or Nicolas Cage. And I found love for Keanu Reeves in John Wick 3 and 4, I believe. I did ask a question earlier, though, guys. What did you expect from The Matrix? And I'm going to start off by saying that I expected cohesiveness. I expect this in a lot of movies. I expect to feel like I am watching one movie that has a clear goal, whether it's 5 goals or 1 goal. The goals or the goal is clear. The way that each character is, you know, plays into the goal is very clear, or doesn't play into the goal, anti-hero, villain, whatever it may be. And I felt like I was watching, the first act was a movie. It was exposition, which to me wasn't successful. Then the second act was a TV show, and then the third act was a romance drama with a sprinkle of action. And so I felt like I was watching 3 different things, which I individually, those things aren't terrible. But if I walk away and say, how did I feel about this quote unquote movie? I'm like, I don't know. So go ahead, Mies. And then I see a hand up, DLJ.
Oh, sorry. I was gonna say, can I just share something to the space real quick? Because I put up a meme about where I think the series is gonna go.
Yeah, did you tweet it?
Yeah.
Go to the tweet and then share it at the top. And
Right,
we'll let
thank you.
DLJ go. Yeah, guys, make sure if you're a speaker, you can share tweets.
Okay.
Go ahead, DLJ.
Yeah, so I would have to agree with you. You know, it was already bad enough it was struggle to watch. You know, there was questions I would ask myself, where's this going? Because it got to the point where it felt like it was, compared to Tenet, probably one of the more confusing movies I watched.
I love this. I love this parallel. Okay, I appreciate you saying that movie. Go ahead.
Yes.
I appreciate that.
Because I think maybe a lot of it, had to do with nostalgia, that a lot of people were looking forward to it. And maybe that's what I was expecting. And that's on me. Mm-hmm. But, at the end of the day, it was just a confusing movie. And I felt like they didn't know which direction they wanted to go. I don't know if the pandemic played a part into it or whatever the case is.
And that's my question. There's really no right or wrong answer. I do want to know, again, as this is what we watch, I want to understand what you guys expect from any movie you're going into. And then honestly, because to be honest, when was the last time any of us watched the fourth movie of anything? I can't remember the last time I watched the fourth anything. And so I gave
I can.
grace in that kind of experience to that extent, but I still expect a movie to be a movie. And I expect cohesiveness. I expect cohesiveness in the plot, in the composition, in everything. And so that was kind of my issue. So I appreciate that, DLJ. Fonz, and then MIQL. Welcome, Fonz. Welcome to What We Watch. Did I say your name right?
What's up? Yeah, you got it. You got it. Thank you. Thank you for letting me up. This feels like the group therapy I've been looking for because
Oh
this
my
shit
God,
just
I
hurt.
love it.
This shit just hurt my heart so bad. Like
Yes. Share. This is a safe space. Share.
Oh my gosh, listen. I mean, it's so tough because The Matrix was the original, which was such a transformative like experience in the theater. Like
Exactly.
19, I think it was at 98 or 99 when it comes out, just before Y2K, and just as like the internet's almost becoming a thing, and like it predicted all these things that we're now dealing with right now, so far ahead of its time in so many different ways. And I totally agree. I caught just the beginning part of the Keanu Reeves slander, which is totally justified. The man is not a fine actor.
Okay, what y'all not gonna do? Hold up.
It's okay. It's okay. It's
Keanu
okay.
is
But let
fine
me.
as fuck.
I'll finish the point,
It's
and then
okay,
yes,
right?
then come for me on the Keanu Reeves slander. I know.
Oh,
But
I'm so
it's
glad
just true.
to have solidarity here.
It's so you had so many different things going for the Matrix. I think the original one, which was philosophically, it was like an origin of mythology that we really hadn't seen in popular culture that just really stuck to everyone, right? Like we've seen so many films from comic books to Lord of the Rings to all these big trilogies. They're based on existing books and series. Harry Potter, for example, the question about like when was the last time you watched the fourth movie of everything? Well, it's really only Harry Potter and like the Fast and Furious franchise at this
And maybe
point,
like
which is
Jurassic Park. Did Jurassic Park have
maybe
a fourth?
right.
Yeah, it did.
Or
I did
Mad
watch
Max.
Jurassic
the reboot of the Batman, film. But again, it's
Right.
all like existing mythology. The Matrix invented a new mythology that became instantly canon in popular culture, right? And that is like
Right.
such an incredible achievement. At the same time, it's an incredibly high bar. Like none of the movies were going to come even close
Exactly.
to reinventing that. But
Exactly.
what makes this one so bad is they're like, and I pinned this tweet at the top. I had to watch it again because I loved everything about the Matrix, the Animatrix. I was that nerd. I was in DVDs. I was on deleted scenes, everything. It's like they're treating this incredible mythology that they created like this joke throughout the whole film. Like it's almost like they're literally making fun of themselves. And I don't know
Right.
if it's Lana but I blame the writing because the writing for the first one was so phenomenal. And
Right.
it's not to blame Keanu or anyone else or Carrie-Anne Moss, who I think is fantastic, or Priyanka Chopra, who actually I thought was like an incredible casting move, and she really,
Thank you. I
to
fully
do
agree.
Sati. But the writing is just trash. It was just
When
the concept. It was just, it's confusing. All the things
it
everyone
lacks
was saying. So
cohesiveness.
thank you
No,
for
and
holding this space. I'll shut up now. Yeah.
no. This is exactly it, and I think you'll find some parallels with what Jamel was saying. You came in a little bit later, but you would have really appreciated his lovely soliloquy about this same kind of idea. There's a responsibility that this movie had, unfortunately, that the cool thing is when there's such a responsibility and such a burden in this way to carry such a pivotal like Matrix, the first Matrix movie, and then to continue that, the cool thing was that we expected it to be good. We expected it to be exciting, like DLJ said, whether it was the pandemic or what. For some reason, we did expect this idea that came from Matrix, the first one to the second to the third. Even though we can recognize that the second and the third were nowhere near what the first one was, we still felt hope. And I say that because this movie had a bar. It said hope and despair are the same code, are nearly identical in code.
Right.
And I was like, yo, that's a bar.
Big bars.
And also, that's how I felt about this movie. I was like, well, I was very hopeful about this movie, and now I'm in despair.
And with the
So
callbacks, we were on the verge. Like, we were so close to being good until we weren't, because we had all
and
these
so
callbacks to these amazing moments, and then nothing.
that fell flat the minute we came back from the callback. And so I really like the way Jamel said it, and I think, I kind of wrapped it up too. It was like it was supposed to be different, but if you make it different, it's still supposed to be better. And I think that's something that's a resounding kind of agreement in the room. If you're going to do different, that's fine, but you were such a pivotal story in culture, in modern culture, and now you're kind of just like, is this a joke to you, Keanu? Sorry, I'm going to just add that Keanu. I want to ask Keanu directly, is this a joke to you? Because we take this very seriously. MIQL, welcome. Thank you so much for waiting so patiently. Welcome to What We Watch.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I mean, I thought the shit was a joke. Let's be real. I mean, it was feeling like it was like Ready Player One for Gen Xers. It was giving Hancock, in reverse, like with the love story. It was giving the Joss Whedon MCUification of sci-fi.
This is amazing. This is amazing.
This is so great. It's
this is
giving.
fantastic.
It was so
giving
damn
Ready Player
just
One
trash. Yes.
for Gen X. Thank you, because I made the Gen X boomer comment very carefully. I wanted to preface what I said, but I'm glad you get what I'm saying.
I'm a Gen Xer, so I don't give a fuck. Roast us. I don't give a shit.
Excuse me, hold up. I have to bear the brunt of this personally, so not too much. Not too much.
He just said, nah.
But yeah, I mean, like I was there like in '99, and it was my second year of college, and I was on the enter the what is the Matrix website, clicking all the things, getting into the web, all that shit,
so
reading the fucking like getting into like the lore and reading about like the fucking Jean Baudrillard, and all the shit. Right? I was like, okay, this shit's interesting or whatever. And yeah, they just kind of just shit on it because, like, it's like
they shit on the lore. They did.
It's like it's a heist movie. It's a romance movie.
It was a TV. I'm trying to tell y'all, go watch Act 2. It was a
like
TV show
Eternal
as well.
Sunshine and Spotless Mind type shit. Like, it's like they didn't know what the fuck they were doing with it, and like all the just all the kind of like nudge wink jokes to it, but there was like a good story in there. That's the fuck that shit that pissed me off.
So can I ask a question?
Because they said Civil War shit.
Because it sounds like you had some moments. What was your favorite? Because I know there were a lot of callbacks, and you were talking about like the lore and going into the Matrix site, and I do remember that too. Gen X all the way. What was your favorite callback? Because I feel like the best callbacks were the ones that were actually acted upon. So do you have a callback that you actually really liked or really enjoyed?
I am neutral when it comes to like callbacks or nostalgia or Easter. I'm kind of honestly, I am Easter egged out when it comes to these movies. And like what I'm looking for is just give me a character to give a shit about. Okay. They didn't do none of that.
Praise.
Like the Civil War part of it was the most interesting I found, and I was just like, wait, go back to that. Like, what happened there with the Civil War, right? How did like the whole synthesis, like Mass Effect 3 plot, like
exact, and that was
like,
what I was
go
saying.
Back to that.
That's what I was saying earlier. It's like, make sure that I'm committed to a character that is working towards or against whatever the goal of this movie is. Like, I need to be committed. I mean, somebody, I want to feel something about someone in this movie. And the first answer would be Neo. And then Neo is lazily trying to jump off, and there's like 15 callbacks for that. And Mies, you made a great point. That was where I was like, why are you not even trying? And then it was like, well, this is a movie about Trinity, right, Jamel? You made that great point. Okay, but why did it take us an hour and 45 minutes of a 2.5-hour movie to realize that this was a movie to show Trinity / Tiffany? Why did we keep doing the Tiffany thing? I am so mad. Don't call me Tiffany again. All right, man. Like, that's fine.
Well,
It's fine. I get it. I know why it happened. But I think they use it, like, maybe twice too many times. Like, just make the comment a couple times and we get it and let's move on. Like,
Can
I
I
don't know.
jump in here
well,
for just a second before we get away from like the lore stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead. Welcome, Black. You were next, anyways, and that was Jamel, then Mess, then Ham. I think Mies helped me out with the hand raising too. Hi, Eldred.
I got you, babe.
So I think I have a theory as to why this movie turned out the way it did.
Okay,
Because
I love that.
Okay, wait, hold on.
there,
Let me hit the blunt because this is I'm gonna need to be ready for this. The
And
meta of
speak
it all.
and speaking of hitting the blunt, Ham on Rye. When we get to you, we also want to hear yours. But go ahead first, Black. You have the floor.
so we know the original Matrix movie was like a 1999 thing. We had several sequels. Part of its popularity led to sort of a popular but not super popular massively multiplayer online game called The Matrix Online. And
Right.
it had its own story that was a continuation of things post Matrix 3 in a lot of ways. So it
Meta.
deals with a lot of the things that you guys aren't satisfied you didn't get explained in this movie. So
Right.
like this entire
Oh,
civil war, this entire like I forget the character's name, but with the blue hair that's talking about, oh, I believe in Neo so much.
Bug.
She
Whatever she
is
was.
representative of one of three groups of factions that somebody could join in that game, and they're the people who
Right.
believe in Neo. And the entire point of that game was to explore, a post Neo Matrix situation. So
Right.
I think the problem is so much of that story involves Morpheus and then his eventual death, because we really don't get a satisfying answer as to how that happens in this
Correct.
movie, right?
This is what I was waiting for you to say. Like, you're on
Ruined
a
it.
great path. Go ahead.
We didn't get the explanations or the exploration that you guys want, I think, because it would have involved making a movie that did not involve the stars that people come to see outside of Lawrence Fishburne. It would have had to have been a Lawrence Fishburne centric movie to tell the story that gives you guys what you want. It's going to explore the Merovingian, who we really didn't get a lot of good exposure as to why he is the way he is now.
Right.
And
Why did they
he's a
let
major
that fall
figure in that
flat?
game.
Why did they
I would
let
be
that fall
so
flat?
here for a Morpheus movie. That's the only thing they could do to bring me
yes,
back.
yes.
That's what they should have done. This is like if, for my Marvel people, if we get Captain America 1 and we never get Civil War, but then we
But
get
then we get Infinity War.
and they're referring to,
Right.
oh yeah, you remember when we all scrapped in front of
Right.
the airport, and you're like, well, show me that.
So really quickly,
That is
just
an
because
incredible way, because that is exactly what.
that's what we've been saying, that it relies too
Exactly.
heavily on something else, and I couldn't identify what it was. I
Because
was
it's not.
saying
It
that
isn't there.
it's not. Well, it's not that it's not there. It's that it's there in a context that I'm not familiar with. So all
Right.
the things that he's talking about, like that Black Space Ghost is talking about with like Bug and Lawrence Fishburne and all that shit, that's the genius that I thought that the Matrix 4 was relying on, that I
Right.
couldn't place. And I thought it was the callbacks. Like maybe I just wasn't like placing the callbacks correctly or something. Thank you for this clarity.
And so
Yeah.
that's where. Oh, go ahead, Black Space, because I want to add to that too. Go ahead.
So if that stuff is interesting, there's actually, and I would have to go and find the link, but somebody has compiled sort of the accompanying literature and flavor text and all that stuff from that game. If you're interested in the lore that would have played into what happens between Matrix 3 and
Please
the
tweet
fourth
the link
movie.
and save it in the space and
Let me
put it
see
in
if
the
I can
space.
find that, because
Yeah.
it makes a lot of this make more sense. Does it make the movie that much more satisfying? No, unfortunately, because it still has its problems.
Right.
But at least
You're
you're not
asking.
scratching your head saying, why is Merovingian dirty and crazy now? Why are, all these people
Exactly.
talking about things I never saw?
Right.
It explains that.
And so thank you. Please share that and hashtag what we watch at the top so we can kind of figure out and reference that as we continue the
Absolutely.
conversation, because I think that's important. And I think you just touched on exactly what I was. So here's why I gave the first 45 minutes grace and then the additional hour it took for anything to pick up in this motherfucking movie. Forgive me. So the first 45 minutes I gave it grace because of what you're saying. I know they had a responsibility, or there was going to be an attempt to kind of build this kind of gaming world or whatever else was going on and introduce Bug or however she was going to be related to the Morpheus Neo thing. And so I was like, I'm going to let y'all sit here and do this. But I still walked away feeling like, okay, Matrix 1, 2, and 3. Did I miss a movie between 3 and 4? did I need Matrix 3.5? Because what is Matrix 4 doing? And so I think that's the way you said it is really kind of making me realize like that's where I felt a little weird about giving it grace in the beginning. Now I'm like, they really needed to kind of flesh out the lore a little bit more. So I appreciate that. I think Jamel, you were next, and then Ham, then Edrin, then Mess. Go ahead.
Yeah, like everyone else, I love what Black Space had to say, and for me, it's the context of where this movie fails to me has a lot to do with just watching the Wachowskis' career, basically post the first Matrix, because in actuality, it's a beginning of a sort of decline that starts right from that movie, because there are inherent flaws in their filmmaking style and their filmmaking likes which are, admittedly very niche. If you like it, you're going to like it. A lot of people that I've seen that have liked The Matrix, to me, I call them messy viewers. They like movies when they're a little bit kind of like congested with a lot of noise, and they like it when they're like on this edge of being bad and then somehow have like decent elements to them. Point being that though, still The Matrix Revolution, Speed Racer, the Wachowskis have always been messy. Jupiter Ascending, that was a goddamn god awful mess, and it was all them. And these Cloud Atlas. So these movies, to me, a lot of times they're usually either they have a hardcore audience, and then there's the rest of everybody who's like, what the fuck is going on? And then that messiness extends right down to their casting, because I really feel as though that The Matrix was a happy accident. And I meant to look at who the casting director was for this one and their subsequent movies, and then look at the first one and see if it changed.
Please let me know.
Yes,
your
because
issue with the casting and how you're able to make everything come back to that, I'm standing right now. Because I fully agree. Part of the cohesiveness was in the casting, the lack thereof, right, was in the casting for me as well. And I think it was Fonz earlier that said Priyanka was probably the most impressive and appropriate and exciting, quite frankly. I don't know if that's pretty privilege or she just did a damn good job and was written well, or both.
It was a callback that wasn't a callback. It was a callback that actually was a part of the story moving forward.
Right,
and it was a real character grown up.
And I thought the actress was actually solid, and as compared to, and I think so many of the characters, and not just the main ones that we know, but I'm talking about people like the Keymaster. I thought he was brilliantly casted in Matrix Reloaded. The two guys with the white hair. There were so many interesting characters that existed in the other Matrixes besides the main characters, and they were extremely well acted for the most part. Mary Alice, and even though they switched the Oracle, both renditions of the Oracle were fucking amazing actresses. And now we had all of these people that feel like they were the replacements. Another movie with Keanu Reeves where they were like, "Oh, you guys are the bench players, and we got you all starting, but you really don't belong in these roles. You deserve to be more maybe background players." And so, like I said again, without that weight to help with an already messy movie, which I think really, in reality, we gave a lot of grace to the original Matrix movies. They were messy too, and there was a lot of exposition. There were a lot of flaws in those movies that were covered by other things that they did so well, whether it was production design, world building, acting, and all those other things.
Right. I fully agree. Eldrin, welcome. I hope I'm saying your name right. Welcome to What We Watch. You are a new face to me, so welcome.
Hey, thanks for hosting this. I feel like I had a lot to say about this, but every time my mind went somewhere else. But first
you have the floor. We're getting our preliminary feels off. We're seeing how we feel and what we missed, what we didn't miss. So go ahead.
So I heard somebody mention maybe about 5 or 6 minutes ago, going back and like reading Baudrillard, and I did my PhD, and I focused a lot on like epistemology, like thinking about thinking, metacognition, all that kind of stuff.
Love
so for me, the lore was like big. Yeah, there you go. So and I had a moment in the past week after I saw it where I went out of town. I went to Orlando. I went to the airport and like talking. I went to the movies in Orlando, and somebody I was talking about The Matrix, and the lady's like, "Oh, I never seen any Matrix." Like, really? That's crazy. It's been out for 20-something years. She was like, "Oh yeah, I'm 20." I was like, "Man, that's wild to me." But anyway, it seemed like there's more parallels. I don't know how many people have read this, but I was intrigued by like reading Baudrillard's like reflections on the Matrix, and he talked about how they like the Wachowskis kind of misunderstood his writings, and there's a lot that just didn't add up with his work. But I read earlier this year Notes from Underground, which is Dostoevsky,
Correct.
1864, and it seems like there's a lot more parallels with that, and also Wall-E, the Disney Pixar movie.
Okay, I am fully invested. Please explain the Wall-E, right? I love Wall-E. Please,
Well,
I'm fully invested at this point.
Insofar as like, so for just to kind of like connect the
Yeah, please.
If for folks who don't know, I guess it's kind of a short book, but basically this man underground, he's like railing against enlightenment utopia. It's a book about nihilism, and he chooses to live in this underground cell, and he like rebels against like the modern city and efforts to regulate, tabulate, and like satisfy every human longing and desire. And that reminded me of Wall-E, where like they had to escape this world, and now they're connected to these machines that feed them, and they all get fat and they're comfortable, and they choose this life, and they're asleep because like there's a point in the movie where they wake up and say, hey, we don't have to live like this. So anyway, without getting too far down a rabbit hole for folks who haven't read that book or seen that movie, I too felt like many of you, like just really disappointed, like the slow motion action, like the dizzy kind of spinning the head, like what is this? Like I felt like I could do like iMovie on my Mac, like it just felt weird. And with the lore not being there, I'm like, man, like I did a whole I talked about the Matrix in my dissertation, I got the books, I'm like I'm deep into it, I'm like,
see, and they're failing people like you, that's the problem.
Yeah, like hyper consciousness, I'm like, yeah, I'm down. And like with that missing, it just felt like a big letdown. And I just wish I could get that time back and get that love back.
Right.
I remember I watched all of them multiple times, and like I watched all three back to back when I first moved from where I was going to Connecticut. I was like, okay, I watched all three movies back to back in the U-Haul, and it was just great. And now for this to have happened, I was like, ugh, it just doesn't feel good.
And so
I watched the Animatrix, I watched all that stuff.
And so I was hoping, because again, how often, and we were here earlier in Fonz, you had a great response to it too. How often are we watching the fourth, episode of whatever we're doing or whatever project we're a part of, the fourth iteration, whatever you want to call it. And so I was wondering if anybody did feel the responsibility or the comfort in, I'm gonna go back and watch 1, 2, and 3, because I'll tell you now, I did that for No Way Home. I went and I said, well, you know what? Since I'm watching No Way Home, I'm gonna go watch Homecoming and Far From Home again, because I recognize, and somebody else made a Marvel, I think it was Black Space, so I get you, I was there with you. There's a responsibility there, so I was like, hey, you know what? Let me go ahead and watch Homecoming and Far From Home, so that when I'm, it's kind of fresh in my memory. And so, Elgin, I was hoping to hear from someone that did that, and I was going to see if you felt as though that was better and the movie was good based off what with your memory completely refreshed. And it seems like you still had the same experience, right?
Yes.
So that's a failure to me.
Yeah.
Whether the movie's good or bad to you.
I'll
go ahead.
On DVD, and so like I like all the commentary. So yeah, it still same experience.
Fell flat. Yeah. Interesting.
Ham?
I appreciate that.
I'm gonna call on Ham. I think that they've had their hands raised for a minute, and I saw a little wave.
And Mess, you're next, babe. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Ham.
Yeah, I mean, we've gotten past my original point, but in terms of films that I actually go back to watch, I am a Friday the 13th Nightmare on Elm Street stan, and I feel obligated to watch each one of them again and again and again. Each time there's a new one out, because I just have to like get myself hyped up into how bad it's gonna be, and I know it's gonna be bad, but it's my kind of bad. Okay, we have an agreement that it's gonna suck. It's just to the degrees it sucks. But the thing that actually irked me the most about this film, and it hit me in a way that I didn't consider until having this conversation, was when the previous speaker mentioned being Gen X. I'm actually at the cusp of being a millennial, right?
Mm-hmm.
And The Matrix, along with the Blair Witch Project, along with American Pie, they were all like pivotal moments for me. Like I was thinking college, and I'm like gonna branch out on the world on my own, et cetera, et cetera. And then you just come along and you see a movie that's no longer cool, but that movie identified with you when you were cool, and just to see like
I
to
like
see
what
how
you're
how tired the cast was, how labored just the
And can
effort in its
I know you're
execution.
I'm gonna let you
Sorry.
finish because I love what you're saying. No, I'm gonna let you finish, but I just want everyone in the room to hear what you just said because I fully agree. And I also not do I only want to hear what you just said, but to understand that you might not have ever said this for any other movie that you've seen in the past, like maybe 5 years. When was the last time you saw what actually felt like a tired cast? And yes, maybe they've aged through the 1999 to 2021, obviously. Maybe there's a requirement for changes and differences in casting. Jabel, let me know who the casting director was because that's a very good point that I want to look up further that I did not look up. But when was the last time in a movie that you really were like, this felt like a tired performance? Like it was. I almost asked the question, did they do that on purpose? Are they tired of the Matrix? Like
Right.
I'm not tired of the
I mean,
Matrix. Did they do this
well,
on purpose? Are they
well, I mean,
tired of the
again,
red blues? Go
there's
ahead.
all the the winks that they literally give you the middle finger, okay, at that at the promo meeting. It's for me this film. You know what this film felt like to me? It felt like a distressed pair of designer jeans. But that's it in some facet, it's me. It's like you ain't cool anymore, homie. That the music you like, because that's one thing that really I took away with the sequel here was
Mm-hmm.
that there was no cool music. It was just like a somber
Oh no, there was.
experience to where it's like,
It
sorry.
came at the last 30 minutes. That's when the music started getting cool.
Yeah, I was like tuned up by that point.
Right.
But it just seemed like it was like clumsy and like unsure of itself, which to me, it's like when you're in a relationship for so long and you try to like branch out and date someone new and you're just like a fish out of water.
I
But
love this. I love this.
but like before this experience happened, you were cool. Like people looked at you as the guy. You're not the
the
guy anymore.
relationship
You're
the
the guy that people say get out the
relationship
way.
Yes, I
Yes.
love that parallel. The relationship that Matrix 4 has to 1, 2, and 3, quite frankly, feels just like that. Like, are you a part of this? Are you like the new guy that's what I said earlier, right? You're the Gen X or the boomer that's trying to hang around the millennials. But you're aware of that. And there was a way for you to make that cool and exciting and fun and quote unquote meta as well. And it still kind of felt weird. So go ahead, Ham. I know you were almost done, and I'll let you finish, and then let's get to Mess, because I know you've been waiting patiently, Mess.
Yeah, I was just saying that the whole experience just really made me take an introspective look at myself, just to see where, like, yeah, you ain't going for no dunks anytime soon, homie. It's like I saw this through a movie, just because I had to remember who I was when this movie came out. Like I'm chasing skirts, you know what I'm saying? I'm running around the dorm telling everyone they have to see this dope film that just came out. Like I'm putting people on, and now at the end of the day, I don't want anyone to watch this,
Right.
which was in some ways the closure of my youth, so to speak, or the idea of what I used to think was cool.
And that's so interesting, right? Because, this movie started in 1999. I don't know Jurassic Park. What is the tenure there? Can somebody remind me? Jurassic Park 1 to
I want
the
to say
last one.
90. Oh, last one.
93.
93.
Yeah, 93.
And I'm just making parallels to franchises because, again, I think it's incredible. I don't know that any fourth movie has ever carried so much weight and had such a quote unquote burden or responsibility to, we really wanted this movie to be good. I think we really did. And it's the fourth in the franchise, and it's like, no, but this was supposed to be really good. So
now one film that we could turn to that's the fourth in the series is the Mad Max series with Fury Road, which in my opinion is how you did the introduction or turning an established lore on its head and pivoting to a new heroine, which is again
correct.
And
excellent.
What's her name? Furiosa.
Right. So let me let Mess go. I love that. Let me let Mess go ahead. Mess?
Yes. Yep. So a couple things. So the point I was going to make, and I can't remember who said it before, was one of the things that we're kind of spoiled right now was that we got the MCU right, and so the MCU does a great job of connecting the different films and pretty much connecting like the different stories, and we kind of see we get it right, and even if it's like the What If series or it's the TV shows, they connect them expertly to the films.
Right.
What the Matrix did was, and I can't remember who spoke before, but they brought this point. It was like, you have the games that came in right after the Matrix. You had those pieces that not everybody got exposed to. And so what the Wachowski sisters basically did was they continued from that point. So that was all canon for them, right? And so instead of, I think what would have helped out is if they had done a refresher. It could have been super cool. They could have just like created a site and let people come in and see, yo, what happened since? Because I think that's the piece that's missing for everybody is what happened since the last Matrix.
That's what I said. What is Matrix 3.5? Y'all, do y'all remember Lion King 1.5? That's my favorite. I know, right? Amazing for me to make that reference in this room. I don't care. Lion King 1.5 was the same movie, just perspective from Timon and Pumbaa. It was really cool. Maybe give me Matrix 3.5 or 2.5. I don't know which half was missing prior to Matrix 4, so that some of the stuff that seemed incomplete, like I think Mies, you said it well. There were some callbacks that they didn't bring fully to fruition. Like, how did you say it? And I was like, that's what's missing. Like, I want to be committed to some of these callbacks.
Yeah, some of the callbacks were good in that, like, I think, so one callback that we haven't actually talked about, first of all, we need to have a conversation about Trinity, but one of the callbacks that we didn't talk about a lot was Mr. Smith, Agent Smith, and how he's changed, how he's now a very millennial-looking Agent Smith as opposed to, whatever else. And so his callbacks, I think he followed through on a lot better. When he said some Agent Smith ass shit, he did Agent Smith ass shit. Agent Smith action followed. So that was one of the callbacks I was referring to.
Right. Is it Michael? Is it Michael? Miql? And then Fonz? Go ahead.
Yeah.
I wasn't finishing my point, but
go ahead, Matt.
Because you kind of jumped in there.
Go ahead, Matt. I'm so sorry, Michael. One second. Go ahead, Matt. No, please go ahead. Because you know what, and guys, let me let y'all know. Let me let y'all know that Mess is our resident enjoyer of the movie. He enjoyed the movie. So Mess, actually, you know what? You do get stifled when you're outnumbered. So go ahead, though, Mess. We do need to let you finish.
Explain yourself, Jay. Explain yourself.
I got
tyranny of the majority.
I know, right? This is not a democracy, guys. I am a dictator. No, go ahead, Miss.
So when we think about, like, all right, so it's been 20 years since the last film, since the first film, right? Like 20 plus years. That's a lot of time, right? And the last guy kind of spoke to it, like, we our expectations of what's come of what this world is so great based on where we have been. But on the other side of it is like, they kind of looked at it in a real way of like, like time has passed. This is not exactly like the day after, Neo, saved the world. This is not tomorrow, right? This is 60 years, right? Like, and so within that space of time, like even with the Wachowski sisters, like what have they done in that time to really get this world and build the world out? So I think like so when we talk about the expectations, my expectation was I was expecting to see where are we going with it next, because I fully understood, like once in the very beginning, once they were like, yo, this is different. Like they literally said, yo, this is different. This is not like the original. This is not like the source code. The code has changed. And so like they're calling out to tell you like, yo, this is not you understand as the viewer, this is not what you saw 20 years ago.
Right.
And so, but we're so conditioned because what we feel is what we expect it to be, because based on our experience, like we overlooked that. We were like, nah, I want to see her jump off the building. I want to see her kill the agents. And guess what? She got to that point where we know she kicked the agent's ass, and then she got out of it and she didn't kick the agent's ass.
Right.
And I was like, and it was like, wait a minute, this is definitely different. So that's, I guess, like for me, again, I was saying like I went in there with the expectations of this. Hopefully this is different. To an extent it was. And again, there's some things that they missed, but like I said, they're setting us up for the next film that you guys don't think you want, but I think there's going to be a next film.
Good call. Yeah.
There will be. I don't, I don't know what my investment will be in it. Right. Thank you, Mies. And I think it's interesting because we talked about it earlier again, and I love when there's some recurring things and some kind of themes and some kind of persistent ideas. One of them being different, right? This is supposed to be different, and so we need to be okay with different. And that's where I ask, was I prepared for this to be different? Was I prepared for the different to not be good? Because yes, it can be different, but I need to be invested in the different. I need to be good with it. So that's my personal, right? That's where me and Mess are not really kind of seeing eye to eye. But I appreciate it because, I was going to have a co-host that really loved the movie. Like, and I mean, absolutely loved the movie up here too. Just so you know, there isn't too much bias here. Well, he couldn't make it. He ended up having to work, but he absolutely loved the movie. And I was like, okay,
was it Henry?
No, it was Luke.
Oh, okay.
It was like, you have to come in here, and he ended up having to work. So, Mess, you're kind of my resident. Actually, let me defend this point of the movie. So, thank you. MIQL, Michael. I don't know how to say it. Correct me. All I can see is like some of your name guys in the beginning. So, I don't know if it's.
And
right.
after Michael, we'll hit Bam because I know he's had his hand up for a minute.
Perfect.
Okay, yeah, no worries, Michael. It's Michael. But yeah, I mean, all we wanted was we wanted many things, right? But there wasn't much competition. This movie got smoked by Sing 2. Like, who gave a fuck about Sing 1? First of all, like, it was not that fucking hard.
Not too much. Not too much.
It was not that hard.
The pig sang down.
All right. But here's the thing, with the original, like with in '99, I mean, like, it was a whole slew of dope shit in 1999. Like, there was Cruel Intentions, there was American Beauty, there was Virgin Suicides, Girl Interrupted, Fight Club, like it, Mr. Challenger Ripley. Even that was Blair Witch Project. So I mean, really, that's the point, right? Is that they didn't have much to do. They actually didn't have much competition. They could have knocked this shit out the fucking park. So and then my last point really is just, we talked about a little bit about Trinity. We talked a little bit about there's a little bit of Keanu Reeves slander, which is fine. It's whatever.
Oh my God, did I strike a nerve here?
No, it's fine. It's fine.
I struck a few nerves. That's okay. I'll be all right. Because I also threw in Nicolas Cage, just kind of swept it under the rug, and y'all haven't said that yet because I know y'all love him too.
But okay, because you was
Here's the thing. Did y'all sign up for a Doogie Howser episode? At what point?
Talk about
Bruh,
it.
At
what point did you realize that it was a How I Met My Mother episode? Like,
How I Met Your Mother. Yes, it was.
In the face. Like, what did you sign up for that?
Thank you for recognizing the TV in this fucking movie.
Real quick, because we got to move some people around. We got to move some speakers around. But I wanted to talk about this because one of the things I said to the person I was watching with was, he's the fucking blue pill. It was the most meta moment in the whole movie where they basically had Doogie Howser as the blue pill. And then he comes out and you realize that he's the program that is the same equivalent of the blue pill. So it was very much a How I Met Your Mother episode.
Do you feel triggered now? Like, goofy. It's goofy as hell.
I will say that to the extent that any credibility that you guys who are making the statement that the movie was good on its own, without, like, outside of the comparisons to 1 and 2 or to the original trilogy, it was good. If there was anything good about it, it would have been Doogie Howser as the blue pill and Trinity, because those were the people that had actual story and actual new narrative in this. So I'm gonna step back, but like I said, I'm gonna start. And Mo, I'm sorry, I'm about to start pulling people off the speakers and adding new people in because other people have.
No, it's not an apology. This is space. Guys, again, welcome to What We Watch. This is
y'all.
Your first What We Watch space. Please watch. Please follow What We Watch Film TV. Just click at the top, and you can tap into all of our conversations. If you're a speaker, whatever tweets that you had about this movie or any parallels or anything that you're hearing in the space right now, go ahead and do it. But I want to make sure that people don't think that I'm hosting a podcast. You're not here to just listen to me talk. I do want everybody to have time to speak, though. And so, Bam.
Auntie Mies will be being the mean girl here.
Bam, please go ahead and let me know. And then Gordon, I see you in the room. You keep having a lot of issues coming up and being a speaker. Let me know if you have any issues. If you need to DM me, go ahead and do that. But Bam, then Fonz, then Eldrin.
For sure. All
Welcome,
right.
Bam. Is this your
Hey,
first time?
this is my first
I
time in the
knew it.
room.
I love first
It,
timers. Hi.
and it's funny because I've always been meaning to get in the room, and I've come in late, or like I just miss it, and I'm like, I'm
Okay,
mad
so
I
no,
even came in
so
late today.
no, so no pressure. Get your bars off. Get your
Bam,
bars
cool.
off.
Bet that. So I'm in the mess camp a little bit. I'm in his camp a little bit where I didn't hate the movie. People ask me how it was. I'm like, hey, it's cool for what it is. My biggest issues with this iteration of the Matrix, it's just not sexy. Like there was nothing sexy about the movie. Like
Okay, and I appreciate you
That's real.
gatekeeping
That's super.
sexiness.
It
I
matters.
really appreciate you saying that, Bam. I'm gonna let you.
yeah, like because like when you think
Matrix,
of
and that's what I was talking about, right? It's the burden of the Matrix. It's
yeah,
sexy. It's supposed to be cool and sexy.
it's black trench coats, it's flipping off walls, it's
That's what I'm
gunfights and rain.
talking about.
Like
This,
like you
that's the
you
most
can't think of any
profound assessment. Thank you so
you
much.
can't
Go
think
ahead.
of any moment from this movie that makes you like, bruh, but did you see when this happened? Like we can all think about
Exactly.
when they're saving Morpheus in the first movie and Trinity's flipping over the hallway, shooting off those rounds. We can think of Morpheus slicing the truck on the highway, like the whole highway scene from the second movie, and Neo like fighting all the agents in the basketball court or whatever. Like
Right.
it's just iconic, like sexy moments. Like, bruh, honestly,
Exactly.
I described it as like it's really some anime ass shit. Like that's how I feel about the Matrix. It's anime meets like trench coats and guns. Cool.
Which
This
sounds amazing to me personally. I'm obsessed with anime.
Exactly.
I'm
100%,
If the
obsessed
movie
with
was
trench
bad,
coats.
yeah, if the
100%.
movie was bad, we wouldn't be
Give
having
me
this
a
conversation.
give me
But
a
like
heel. Give
it's
me you flipping off of building in some heels and a trench coat
yeah, like
on
just
some anime ass storylines. Give it
totally
to me.
like just not really proper, flipping off building wear. Like throw on some heels and land the flip and keep it pushing. It'd have been raw, but it didn't do that. And
There is. Go
there
ahead.
was
Go ahead.
there, and it felt like when you watch the first Matrix and you have your like quote unquote side characters, like people die. Like these like like oh these little spunky like
The stakes. The stakes were high
yeah
enough.
like
What
people
are the
die
consequences of these decisions?
when
Yeah,
these
No
these
one
cats made it
forgave.
through the whole movie.
all of them did.
All of them did. Bro, what? What?
There we go. Now we're talking. Sexy is a good word. The
Yeah.
expectation of sexy was there. Fonz, go ahead, baby. Thank
Go
you,
ahead.
Bear.
No problem.
Well, I got so many other things to say. I really just want to just
Say
hop
it all.
back and shout out Black Space Ghost because the the thing that the Matrix did. This is a term I've worked in TV for a while before I joined the Bird app, and this term of transmedia storytelling was something that was like very, very like it hadn't even been invented yet when the first Matrix came out. The idea that a story can start on screen but then extend to another medium and you need to follow all these different parts, and it definitely asked a ton of the audience, but like that sort of paved the way for a whole other host of things. Again, when you think about like Game of Thrones or other lore building sort of worlds, like that's what people like us who love it, and want
I want the
more of
video
it.
game, the
You want
movie, the book, the
everything.
YouTube
Yeah.
videos, right? I do.
So
Yeah.
so I totally agree that point about, you know, where, how do you up level, especially after this much time, those in between stories, and make those, kind of main pieces. I think, to use Marvel, like their whole Disney Plus strategy, where right after Endgame, they're literally giving all side characters their own shows, their own 8, 9, 10-part shows, so they can tell this mythology and then reboot to the next whatever phase 4, whatever monstrous money making machine they've got going on there, is really brilliant and honors the fans and honors kind of the way we have, come to expect our stories to be told, in the modern era, because it's all blown up right now, right? Like, so I think that that's a great point. I guess there's two things that I'm still just like hearing all the dialogue. Like, I was curious, like what everybody else thought, because I think one, the mythology and the lore that we've been talking about, right, is super rich. It's layered with all these things. But I'm not sure if you guys all caught this tweet that I threw up from Sophia Stewart. It's this black woman, this black screenwriter who had been suing both James Cameron and
I did see that. I was wondering.
and the
Someone just
Wachowskis.
DM'd me about that
Yes.
literally just now, and I hope that they come up and speak as well. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would encourage folks to check it out. I think initially those things, and I mean, we could obviously go all the way into the fact that, obviously black women in Hollywood have routinely not just been marginalized, but just completely ignored. And I'm happy to hear at least she won her case, back, I think it was in 2013. So she actually has, like a legit claim to this, to this mythology. But it also makes me wonder too, like this Matrix might have been the first one that the Wachowskis really had to write with no sort of source material or anything to kind of build from. And you
but
see
why
kind of
is
what,
that?
what
Season
8 Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Why
Yeah,
is that,
like,
Fonz? Do you know?
Why
was that the experience here for this fourth movie?
I mean, honestly, that's what I'm trying to explain. I honestly don't know, but my theory is sort of like maybe they just didn't have anything else to steal at this point. Like they probably got the trilogy from her. It was clearly, if you read some of the documents, that whole trilogy arc, and they've adapted certain things, but it's like it's kind of all in there. And this is a whole new world, and I think they've allowed the transmedia to sort of morph, and they had hired all these other people to do like the Animatrix. I love the Animatrix because there's a couple of like shorts that tell the story of how the machines took over, right? And created the Matrix and that evolution. And so there's all these really rich storytelling opportunities, but I just think this movie is really, and I don't know if it was Space Ghost or who else mentioned the Wachowskis' track record since, but they're not good at this. Like, in terms of building the mythology ever since, like, I don't know if y'all remember Speed Racer, what a train wreck that was. Cloud Atlas.
Yep, somebody was just bringing that up. Yep.
Cloud Atlas is absolutely the most expensive mess. Everything, and they're trying, and they clearly have this amazing ambition, but it just hasn't ever landed. So I think that was just something I was curious if folks knew the story of Sophia Stewart and all of that and what everybody thought.
I did not know. I'm just learning, and so I'm really glad that we're in this space, because even though this is where I host and I create the space, I'm learning a lot from you guys. So I'm very, very thankful.
Well, a quick note. So I thought it was interesting that the case was brought in Utah court. I'm not sure how familiar people are with like legal issues and things like that, but certain venues or jurisdictions, forums, etc., kind of get looked down upon. So I think Utah, for me, when I saw that it was brought in the Utah court, I was like, I think there's a story there. So I'm interested to look into it, not because I don't believe her, but just to understand kind of like the dynamics of it and what actually happened. Why I think that the fact that it was brought in the Utah court, to me, tells me that something was like, there's a story there. So I definitely wanted to look into it more. I'm also curious if the fact that it was in a Utah court is why we haven't heard more about it. To the extent that Utah obviously is not, a state known for getting sexy cases and things like that. So I wonder if that has something to do with why people are just now hearing about this, other than the normal kind of suppression of people of color in general and Black women in particular in Hollywood.
Right. And me, that I'm very invested now. So as those of you that know way more about that learn more, I'd love to just kind of understand.
I'll update your girlfriend.
Yes, because as a Black woman trying to get it in this industry, it's very important for me to understand the obstacles that we all go through, because I'm probably going to face them as well, if not more. So, Eldrin, I believe your hand was... Thank you. Eldrin, you were next.
Yeah, so one quick... Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. Eldrin, real quick. I got to jump, but I just wanted to say shout out to you, Peach, for holding the space, and me. Thank you guys so much. It's been great to rap. Very healing.
Thanks, Fawn.
Thank you so much. I'm glad this was a safe space for you to get your feelings out, because I knew when I created it. Thank you so much.
I feel so much better. Except for mess. I'm coming for you, Jay.
That's why we're here.
I'll meet you on the side, yo.
Sorry, Eldrin. Go off, Dr. King.
Good, man. I was actually to one of your points, Fonz. And one of the questions that was raised around, why and like kind of what was the impetus for this story and what we got. The first Matrix, the budget for the film was 63 million, and then for the next two, there were 150 million each, and the budget for this film was 190. And so I think money is a big motivating factor. Like, man, we got to come up with some kind of story. Like, we got this money on the table, so let's make something. And so what we got a lot of was things like, I think, without any spoilers for people who haven't seen the penultimate episode of this season of Insecure, I think Molly had the best take for this movie. She already said that. Like, I think we've seen the graphics, we've seen like all of that action before. We've seen the running on the wall. We've seen the like Neo like blew up things like 3 times with his hands, like energy projection. And so I think money might it'll make you like try to come up with something. Like, we got to turn in the script. And but also I think we have to give a little bit of grace for COVID. When this movie started production, it was February 2020, and they had to shut down the next month. And so I also, like a lot of Marvel shows, like I finished Hawkeye, Scarlet Witch, like even watching Spider-Man, like no spoilers, but there's a lot of things that were cut. Some scenes were filmed, and some actors didn't come back. So there's maybe some plot that we're missing. And I guess whenever the DVD comes out, we'll get more, maybe some cut scenes and more commentary from the directors, like what happened. So I think that's that's the grace that I can give it, because like I know a lot of things are crazy. Even I was watching the Boba Fett show on Disney Plus, and I was like,
I'm getting to that this weekend.
No spoilers.
No spoilers, no spoilers. But I just thought, okay. And so I think that there's just some grace to be given, and I'm happy to give it to this team. I don't know that I want more of this. I definitely would love
I'm
more.
with you, Eldrin. I'm with you.
I definitely would want more Animatrix, because I was a big fan of Ghost in the Shell standalone complex. So big shout out to Fonz for bringing that up too.
Yeah, and I really appreciate what we watch and what we're doing here in these Twitter spaces, is that we adhere to these fictional realities, and we do have an investment in them, and they do shape the way we kind of, see things and how we talk about things, and we find parallels in other projects that we've been a part of. And then we forget that there is a business aspect there. And so I appreciate you bringing up the fact that budgetary concerns are a thing, right? It is you have a different, with the issues with Marvel, where there's like basically an unlimited budget at this point. And it's not unlimited, but there's like those conversations about how movies are changing. Earlier someone mentioned like the experience in a theater, which has also been affected by the business and the pandemic as well. And so I see a lot of people over the past like week, I've seen a lot of people commenting about how they feel about theaters. And I was like, a lot of these people went to see Matrix in theaters and they were underwhelmed. And I'm just like, well, there's just a responsibility and a conversation to be had about the business surrounding the fourth movie from something that was absolutely legendary. And we're not just saying that, right? Like Matrix legitimately changed the game for a lot of how we consume media, movies, TV, and all that kind of stuff, like from camera shots to a lot of stuff. So so I really appreciate you bringing that up, Eldrin, because I don't ever want to have a space without acknowledging that.
Yeah, I just want one last point. Samuel L. Jackson said something a few years ago. He said, I don't care if you boycott my movies. By the time you see it, I've already made my money. And so, the Wachowskis and the directors, the writers, producers, the cinematographers, they've made their money. Of course, you want to do good work, but like at the end of the day, they've produced something. They turned it in. We're paying money to see it. They made their deals with HBO. They got marketing. And so, that's a big part.
And they've already done the work in 1999, right? I mean, but that's why when we start to talk about quote unquote Matrix 5 or whatever the hell they're about to do next or whatever iteration, it's like, that's the only way, right? Boycott my movie if you want to, but there is still a responsibility, guys. I still want it to be good. And so will I watch the fifth one? I don't know. And so that's the only time that there's like actual quote unquote consequences. And as someone in the industry, I'm not saying that they should suffer consequences, but this is why we have these conversations. Am I going to watch the fifth one? I can tell that there's a space for it. I don't know if I'm interested. So
why don't we welcome
Paige is new. Paige is new, and I know you've had your hand up. And then Black Space, I know that you've got some good stuff to say too. Paige, welcome to What We Watch.
Hi, hello, good after morning, everyone. How are you all doing?
Wonderful. What time is it where you are?
No, I'm in LA. It's 7:32.
Okay.
All right, after morning.
Okay. I'm in LA as well. All right.
For sure. No, it's just how I like to do introductions because I'm often speaking to people in other places. So I just say good after morning.
Absolutely. And we are international here, if I may flex.
For sure. For sure. No, thank you all for the space and for creating this space and for allowing this dialogue to happen for sure. Because as a person who's a big fan of The Matrix and who's a big fan of, the Animatrix as well, I'm a big, huge anime head and things of that sort. I was very disappointed by this movie. And the first thing I said, similar to what has been brought up, literally, I looked at my partner as soon as we finished watching the movie on HBO Max, and I was like, wow, so I guess this is what happens when you can't steal the story from a Black woman anymore. You got to write your own shit. So I was like,
okay, bars.
Because it's like,
now we talking.
Because it's like you just because you can do something does not mean that you necessarily have to or that you should do it. And I finished this movie and I said they should not have made this movie because I don't think Lana Wachowski that she actually had the type of urgency and intentionality that she and her sister had when they were first making the first 3 Matrix movies, right? And I'm one of the few people who even enjoyed the third Matrix movie. And yes, it has its problems, but I enjoyed it in the sense of as a narrative component, as a story mechanism, we got a beginning, middle, and end with Matrix 1, Matrix 2, Matrix 3. This one just felt more like a cash grab, or that was built around this nostalgia blob monster, because everything was on the nose. There was no subtext at all. And that was one of the things that I loved about the first 3 Matrix movies is that there was so much subtext. There was so much subtext because there was a conversation within the conversation about the state of the world that we're in. We were at a time where we were first having big conversations about the internet, the rising, power of the internet and the rising power of being watched, what I'm saying? Like government watching and all of these things and the things that they're putting in the media. Like a lot of these conversations were happening. And so The Matrix was just such a great subtextual piece of media that really allowed this conversation to be told in a really creative and a very unique way. And all of that magic was missing in Matrix Resurrections. It was completely missing for me, especially for a film where literally in the universe and in the rules of the universe, you have people that can go on a computer and type whatever the hell you want. Literally whatever you want can be created. And it just lacked so much imagination in that spec. And it was really disappointing in that. The second thing for me was, and you alluded to this earlier, I think it was you, Peach, is that the stakes were completely missing in this movie. Completely missing. And it was a movie, I hate when filmmakers make the theme more important than the story, because you can if you start hammering in the theme, it's like you got to let us know, oh, look how meta we're being, and oh, we're having this meta conversation about video games and sequels and ha 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 and all of this. And it's like when you can use the subtext and you can use the dialogue of characters and the action of characters to let the theme come out organically versus trying to hammer it.
Exactly. And a very small piece of that was the Tiffany Trinity thing for me. It's like, let it be. I get it. I see it. I know what's happening. and it would have hit harder in the moment that she's like, "My name isn't Tiffany." That would have hit harder if they hadn't fucking hammered
said it
it into the
already.
first. They have to say 15
Exactly.
times. Please stop adhering. And it's like the theme was a crutch as opposed to like a bolstering. Like I don't know. It was really weird. I like the way you
Exactly.
said that.
Exactly. And so, and that to me was just another, because I'm a big person of like, I'm always like, let me go back to what the script is telling me. Let me go back to what the movie is telling me. Let me take out my biases and my projections and all that. Let me go back to what are the rules and the elements that the script and the movie have given me. And based on that, I'm like, interesting maybe concepts, but really poor execution on this movie.
They
Really,
had the
really poor
benefit of
execution.
they had the benefit of already having had created these worlds. And so even to
Right.
the extent that this allegedly was, after Neo did his big, revolutions ending, I understand this is a new world, but y'all still have the benefit of having that world building and that context and the activity
Right.
and the mind bending or the different reality that we've already established in the Matrix trilogy. And then instead of y'all playing up on that, y'all fell flat. Like we said,
Right.
if you go back to the source material, if you go back to the canon, if you go back to what had been done before, it still fell flat, honestly.
Very
Right.
flat, very flat. And my last thing was with, and kind of in conversation with this execution thing. Now I'm looking at what's the where does art imitate life here, and what is the bigger metaphor that is being told through this movie. And one of the few things that I actually liked about this movie is seeing all the actors from Sense8, which is one of the few projects that the Wachowski siblings have actually done that was dope. If you haven't watched Sense8, it's on Netflix. It's a
I
really, really,
enjoyed it.
really dope project. I really enjoyed Sense8.
I didn't finish it, but I enjoyed what I did see. I want to let Black
Yeah.
Space speak. Thank you so much. I'm really glad you said what you said because I'm fully with you. And let me let Black Space speak because I got a lot to say. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Thank you for waiting so patiently, Black Space, because I know you got some good stuff.
Yeah, no, of course. I mean, this space is great. Like, thank you for hosting this, first of all.
You're awesome. Thank you.
So a couple of things. One, I think we'd be a lot more at peace with forgiving some of the warts of this movie if we had a more compelling villain. I think the most interesting thing to me about this entire film has been Agent Smith, or like he calls himself just Smith now. His relationship with Neo has been the driving force of, I would say, all the movies. He's the most interesting because he's the least predictable character. And even in this, I'm much more interested in him and what the implications of his character would be for a sequel than I am any other character's characterization. Because nobody else really gets more than a couple of minutes of exposition. Why are they important? Who are they? Oh, you're the guy that sits at the computer. Oh, you wear the funny glasses. Oh, you're a robot. We don't get any depth from anyone else. We don't get the moments like in the first Matrix when they're talking about how bad the food is and their ideas on why everything tastes like chicken. Like, we don't get that stuff. So we don't really get invested in anybody new. So they had to lean into some of the older characters. And really, I think the only person who would be interesting going forward, or really even was interesting in this movie, was Smith. Then
go ahead.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I don't know how much more I can agree with you and express how happy I am. Just kind of a theme across just having these spaces is I ask that question a lot. What guides a lot of my conversations and when I moderate these spaces is how committed or how well thought out and presented was the villain. And I'm just very glad that you brought that up because that's what gets me invested in a movie is what is the goal and who's making it hard to reach that goal and who's actually doing the work to go, towards that goal.
Right.
Well, Mo, I kind of have to ask with this movie because I think that with the previous trilogy, we were very set on Neo being the hero. I feel like that may not have been the case in this one. I think Trinity was the hero. I
agree.
Like we haven't talked about that at all, so I'm just like
we're gonna get there. We're gonna get there.
Okay. I just want to make sure because I got my tweet up.
We're not gonna be silencing women here. The importance of
all right,
women
you
in
knew
this
it.
film.
You knew I was going to
Yeah, I did mention that an hour ago, though, just to be fair.
Who mentioned it an hour ago? Mess?
Yeah.
Thank you, Mess. Go ahead, finish
Good
Black
job,
Space. The last 20 minutes in this space is going to be about Trinity, period. Go ahead.
Period.
The other thing that I think we have to be sort of realistic about with this movie is we're a much harder audience to impress from like a spectacle standpoint than we were 20 years ago.
Absolutely.
So if you, I don't know how many people sat down and rewatched the first Matrix movie recently, but as much as the action scenes were mind blowing back then, now it's not the most impressive choreography, and some people may strongly disagree, but I think we've
very
come a long
strongly.
way. We've come a long way in how we shoot that stuff. If you look at more recent things like Ip Man, if you look at The Fable and its sequel on Netflix, Japanese movie, fantastic choreography.
Black Space, me and you aligned because I'm about to tell you, for choreography and fighting, the bar is set incredibly high with Japanese and Korean movies.
Super high.
Did you?
Fair.
I might have The Raid. Oh my god.
Amazing.
Oh my god. I literally looked up the choreographer for those fights. I was like, whatever he does,
Bars.
I will be a part of this.
Big bars.
Exactly.
Okay. Period.
So we've come a long way since that original movie, and the way it's shot, while you can appreciate it for what it did, I don't think they would have devoted the resources or the time to necessarily reinventing the wheel in that way on this movie. And maybe that's what they should have done, because if it was at least visually impactful,
they should have done that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But they didn't really do it, did they?
Well, the thing is, so when you said what you said about the fight scenes, like I agree that there are probably better movies that did it better, but at that time for that movie, what they did was groundbreaking. And I posted up one of the tweets I posted up at the top was like one of their kind of like workout sessions, and you see them going through it, and you see the actual choreographer talking about each actor and what their fighting style is like and how that played out in their character, and that level of thought. If I would have seen that in this movie, I feel like I would have been a lot more pleased.
Exactly.
It wasn't the same level, clearly. Like the blending of styles, it was so groundbreaking
So
back
bad.
then.
And I
they
just
could
have to-
itemize. They say this is from here, this is from there. They didn't have any of that. Everybody fought the same. Nobody's style looked different.
Exactly.
And nobody
You can pick that
stood
up.
out. I mean, I want to just go back to one of the 100 things that have been said in this beautiful space, but just going back to Bam, it just wasn't sexy.
It was not
Fighting is
sexy.
sexy.
Not at all.
And there's a point where I don't even think I can reference a time where I've seen bodies drop on purpose multiple times in like a very few minutes from a building. That should have rocked my world.
That was lazy as fuck.
That should have rocked my world. That should have been like the coolest thing. That was very unique. And I text my friend. It was you, Mies. I text you, and I was
it was me.
okay.
Like, what the fuck?
I was like, so bodies are flying.
It was lazy. Happening? So I called it Badakazi because it could have been like a big, like massive, like, oh, we are throwing ourselves on the bomb for this. There was nothing. It was just like it was just so lazy.
And so in the moments that I wanted to be invested and committed, I was still like, damn it.
You can't invest. You can't invest.
I was like, what is this? This is cool, but I'm not feeling cool. Jamel, and then I want to welcome History and Social Science. Again, I just see the beginning of your names, guys, and then Jamel, you'll speak. But welcome to What We Watch. Thank you for coming up.
Hey, peace. How's everyone?
We're wonderful. Get your bars off about the show.
You so kind.
We have dropped some amazing things. Let me see if there's any parallels, because I'm also finding that some people are saying the same things in different ways, which I also love. That means that we are kind of, understanding. We did watch the same movie, right? So go ahead.
Yeah, well, I'm just jumping in here. Older dude that was came across seeing this the title of this discussion and just wanted to hear about. And y'all have given some awesome comments. I just want to take it back a little bit to the origin. We talked about ensuring that the space amplifies the voice of women. And I think that we need to do a little bit more about uncovering the story of Sophia Stewart, whom I've had the pleasure to talk with and be a part of an interview.
Real quick, we have tweets posted at the top. Like I posted one. I know Fonz posted one before he left. Make sure you scroll through those tweets. They're referencing her Twitter page. I'm also actually, as we speak, looking at the website to see what's going on there. So
did you say that you interviewed her?
Yeah, I was a part of an interview with her and had the opportunity to speak with her maybe about 7 or 8 years ago when this was more hot, when it was just coming off of the presses with people finding out about what was going on. And in talking with her, I think it's like this. I'm a historian, so I'm going to give a couple of historical tidbits in here just to make my point quickly. Number one, we find that the Matrix is actually rooted in the biblical manuscript. We see it mentioned in Exodus 13 and 12, Exodus 34 and 19, Numbers 18 and 15. This is where Sophia got the concept of the Matrix from, right? This idea that the woman's body is actually the opening portal to bringing the God quality into the world, right? And so that is really what is the crux of this whole piece, is that people must be born again, not in the religious context of Christianity, but the idea that through understanding and knowledge of ourselves, we recognize the real and can separate it from the fake. And that's what this concept of the
That's what
Matrix
the
is all
Matrix
about.
is, right?
Correct. And so even in the biblical context, when it makes the statement that he who opens the matrix, shall be dedicated to the Lord, the King James text says. So there's a connection there. But then when you look at the original Matrix film, many don't realize the ship is called the Nebuchadnezzar. Well, what does that represent? The Nebuchadnezzar, it represents this king from Babylon who had enslaved the Israelites. And so the ship represented this freedom from the main matrix, but also bondage, right? So I'm just giving you some of the stuff that from talking with Sophia that she mentioned.
So dope.
No, this is amazing.
And so then, you have the idea of the woman being the Trinity. And again, we talk about what we see in the Babylonian Trinity with Tiamat, the feminine energy, with Aset and Egyptian understandings of the feminine energy. And so this Trinity piece is extremely important. Of course, you switch the letters in Neo and you get one, right? Because it's the one representing this redeeming force, this godliness that's being brought into the world. Right. Now, the reason why this film and those since the beginning have lacked the power is because the Wachowskis never had the science. See, they come from a European world which is void of ancient Kemetic, ancient Israelite, ancient Babylonian ethos. So they didn't have this understanding, and that's why they couldn't continue it. For example,
and that's why it lacked. I love this perspective.
And so when you make a copy, right, on a copy machine, if you continue to make copies, what happens? It starts to fade.
It starts to get blurry and fade, right?
So it's just like today when we think about Easter and we say, oh, Easter is this holiday, but it's all about Cadbury bunnies and chocolate and eggs. But yet the original concept of the egg and the bunny comes from ancient Babylon and fertility understanding. It's the same thing with Valentine's Day, where we don't understand this connection to Lupercalia in ancient Rome, which was about animal sacrifice and random matchmaking. So the history of it is really strong. It's really earthy. Right. It's really fleshly. But then its modern version, after you've lost the knowledge, is sort of kidsy. And I relate that to the same thing that we see with the Matrix film. That's why it was so weak. Because it's a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy, and the secret knowledge that was a part of it is lost. So that's what I wanted to add on.
And I really appreciate you saying that, because I mean, that's what happens, right? We have the Matrix and the thing is, I just want to say that it's cool to make copies or iterations or introduce new ideas, and it's okay if you can preserve the original, kind of lore or whatever it is that's, created the initial Matrix. It's good to preserve that, but it's also cool to expound upon that and elaborate and add some stuff. That's why we have like the Gen Xers and the Boomers that are a little bit different in how they assess things than millennials, and even millennials to Gen Z, right? Because as things age and as things are evolve or they're copied or whatever the case may be. But I really appreciate that you bring up that there was it is evident that this was without the original kind of context. And I think I think I'm learning in this space from you guys that I have a responsibility to speak about The Matrix with Sophia Stewart involved every single time, and to not lose that. I think I might try to incorporate that conversation a little bit more and read up more on that. So thank you for that.
No problem. And just ending out, I'll just say, yes, we should be able to build upon ideas and concepts,
Right.
but you never cut the root in order to try to make the fruit. And that's the
Correct.
issue.
Right. And that's where we have to, assess how we imitate art or how we, expound upon it. So I love that. Yeah, never cut the root to get the fruit. I love that. We can trim, we can do a lot of stuff. We could take that metaphor pretty far too. But I think the next person was Jamel and then Bam. And I just want to say before y'all go that this might be my favorite space. This is one of the first spaces I haven't recorded because I did not want people to come in here and just say a bunch of crazy stuff about a movie that is art. And as an artist, I know that people are sensitive about their stuff. So this might be my favorite What We Watch. I've been doing this for a year now. Twitter has been paying me for a few months now to do this. And I'm really thankful for you guys for being in here because this is what it's all about. And a movie that I did not particularly like, I'm having an amazing time learning through all the perspectives and talking about it. Again, I don't know if you were here in the beginning. It took me 7 days to watch this movie. I love watching movies. I had to piecemeal this movie so much. It was so hard for me to watch.
I had to be an accountability buddy.
Accountability partner. Yes, I needed reinforcements at one point. I was like, please just sit with me and watch this movie because I do not understand why we went this route basically every 15 minutes. So I am very thankful for you guys. Please hashtag What We Watch with any of your thoughts and follow What We Watch Film TV because this might be one of my favorite ones. And this is how we assess movies that we may not have loved with a little bit of love in our understanding. And that's what We Watch is about. So thank you. Go ahead, Jamel, and then Bam.
Hello. So I'm going to try to be concise with the connecting thoughts because a lot of things were brought up since I was mainly just coming back to the thing you asked about casting. But I want to say, number one, that I won't comment too much on this, but from the time I heard it, the Sophia Stewart thing is just, Issa Meese was right to be somewhat wary about that because the story does have wariness to it, and it there's a lot of moving gears to that. And if I wasn't still on lockdown by freaking Twitter, I would post some of the threads that I've seen from, to me, credible sources that makes this thing one of those things where you really just have to decide for yourself what you want to believe, because it definitely touches upon the case was thrown out. Like you said, going to Utah, it does. You were right to suspect that, and she didn't really get anything off of that because of numerous things and inconsistencies around a sort of thing that I think sometimes happens where we as creators, you have an idea and somebody hits very similar upon that idea, and then you start to get protective and territorial about that idea. But that's still doesn't really, I'm not really satisfied as to whether one side or the other. So I'll just leave it at that. But
Interesting.
Hong Kong aspect that Black Space brought up and Meese responded to, I really wanted to say that I also agree definitely highly with Meese. As a connoisseur of, action kung fu films since the 70s with the Shaw brothers and all those bad wigs and the great choreography there, moving up through the 80s and 90s with people like Donnie Yen and movies like Tiger Cage and all this. I've been always watching how fighting has progressed and moved from Hong Kong to Hollywood, and I still think The Matrix stands very tall when it comes to the action. It's a different type than what you get with Hong Kong, which usually a lot of times can be more forceful and then at the same time, depending on who's telling the story, more balletic, and people choose along sides there. But still, for what they were doing and how, to me, ultimately the most important thing in a fight choreography is telling a story. And constantly those fights were telling stories. To me, the same way that Bane's original fight with Batman tells a story in that movie. It's about who these characterize and that they characterize the fighting. That is more important as to the more subjective idea as to whether it might still stand up to you or not.
Right.
So then, finally, with the casting thing, it was, and it's a huge crevice.
Before
Mally
you get
Finn.
into the casting thing, I just want to reiterate what you said because I think we kind of go past it because you have a lot of points, but that was very profound to me. The fighting should also support
Tell the story.
and strengthen and tell the story. A fight scene should not just be a fight scene, right? Like, and a lot of this movie felt like you were just kind of throwing in some fight scenes. Like, sure, let's just have them jump off some buildings
Or
here. Let's drive a motorcycle and have Neo do
slap
his
people.
thing here. It's like, what are we? How does this push the plot forward? So
Well,
I
the
just
fact
did not.
that
Go ahead.
I'm so sorry, but the fact that the fights also like Neo, and not to compare it to the previous trilogy, but also to the extent that the fights weren't being won, and there was no lesson learned. So it was like, is the story that he's the one, or is the story that he's gonna learn to be the one, or is the story
Right.
that maybe he shouldn't have never did what he did? Like the story wasn't there, and the fighting for it
Exactly.
to be there without that, added storytelling, it wasn't good enough. It wasn't good enough.
I fully agree. And so I
Absolutely.
did not mean to interrupt you, Jamal. I just really didn't want you to
Me
skate past that
either.
because I think
Sorry.
it was profound. So go ahead.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, and yeah, that's always been a thing for me. Again, and I really learned that from watching all those Hong Kong movies. That there were stories within each and every fight that they would have. That it was basically a rising action, a climax, and then a denouement to even just a fight. And so, anyways, with the casting. Mally Finn was the original one, and I just like you, and I love that you said that you pay that composers need to get more scores are so vital to how we feel emotionally about films.
Oh, you know how I am. Yes.
Yes, and so
We don't give them enough. I don't understand
yeah,
it.
and I'm on that same boat with casting directors. The work that they do beyond usually the leads is so amazing, filling out those movies. So you got people like Julie Taylor, who has worked with Martin Scorsese for years, and that's the reason why. Even when you watch Casino, like I said before, I think in another space we had, like you go top to the bottom, a character that's only going to be in there for 3 minutes, and you're going to be like, oh wow, this motherfucker like is bringing it. And that's what the first Matrix did, and that's because Molly Finn, like I don't have her whole resume, but since I started paying attention to names with people like Lynn Stallworth and, like I said, Julie Taylor and Mary and Daughtery God, I've noticed that when you see those names, your shit is about to be dope. And the only one I can remember right offhand that Molly Finn did is that she was responsible for Mission Impossible 1. I don't know if she went on to direct to be the casting director for all of them. But when you lose that and you go to this new person, Carmen Cuba, I don't know much about her resume. I just think I can tell the difference, and it showed in the cast about that kind of care for casting that says that even I said, when you're going to show up for 30 seconds, I'm getting somebody that exactly fits this role, because your little day role, that's just as vital. I don't like when people dismiss role players and their role in movie. There's so many people that have just popped into movies and
Priyanka
gave it
Chopra popped up in this movie at the very last minute, and to me, she might have been top 2 in the movie.
Right. Oh, yeah.
I mean, yeah. So I love that you're bringing up, and I don't think we speak a lot about that, and I think I'll incorporate that in future conversations too, just about the care in casting. I really like that you said that. Bam.
This is a bit of a backtrack to a previous point. I forgot who said it, but the point stuck in my head, and they said that we have such high expectations because of the things that we're used to now, that the first Matrix wouldn't be at, if we go back and watch it, yeah, it's cool, but it's not as groundbreaking. And I understood the point, and I can kind of see where they're coming from, but it's also if the first Matrix came out in 1999 and it was groundbreaking then we get, we're in 2021 now, and 2021 now, and yeah, we see a lot of things, but there are still
groundbreaking things to present.
Yeah, still ways to wow me.
Correct.
I watched Shang-Chi.
Oh my God.
Shang-Chi wowed me because I was like, yo, this might as well have been Dragon Ball Z.
Absolutely obsessed with these parallels. We've made 18 parallels. Absolutely obsessed. Thank you for the Shang-Chi comments.
And to furthermore, somebody made a comment about how, the videos from how they were training for the first, trilogy, and I hate, we're always comparing it back, but the first trilogy, and how this person, their fighting styles like this, and I know this video because I've seen this video because I've watched it a million times because I love those little technical things. Morpheus, he has a heavier fighting style, but Neo, he flows like Wing Chun, da 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 da. And I'm like, taking the care to do that in fighting styles, like we just said, fight scenes aren't just set pieces. They're there to tell a story. Well, the way a character fights tells you so much about that character.
Yes.
To reference another series, one of the greatest series of all time, and if you've never watched it, please feel free. It's on Netflix. Avatar: The Last Airbender. Avatar: The Last Airbender. Every bending style is rooted in a actual martial art from Chinese Kung Fu. And each of those bending styles, each of those martial arts will tell you how that person is, the history, where they're from, da 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 da, in the world of Avatar. And these directors took the showrunners took the care to get a master martial artist and film him and watch him and draw the character's movements akin to what he does because they care to that level. If you care about your work and you care about your characters, you're supposed to do that kind of stuff if you want to create something that stands the test of time.
I fully agree.
I just didn't see that, in this Resurrections. I saw a lot of like telekinetic stuff. I move my hands, bullet stop. I didn't see the care and the character
Do you
through
know
any kind of
what was
fight
really
scenes.
clunky
Hey yo,
to me?
nigga, what the
Speaking of,
fuck, man? You're fucking nigga, bro.
we'll remove them. What was really clunky to me was where Neo was doing his. Is there a name for that, guys? Again, y'all know way more than me. I am a
I got
little
it.
bit.
I'm on it.
What is the hand thing that Neo does, guys? I don't know. Is there a technical term?
Or like the telekinesis, like the
I
bullet
guess. There
when
you
he
go.
stops the bullets.
Yes.
Yeah.
I may be one of the younger people in the room, so those of you don't, you guys know more than me, and I love this. That's why we host these spaces. When there was a point in the movie, just to speak completely cinematically about this film, a specific scene before we get deep into Trinity, Mies, I'll let you lead that. There was a point where he was using the telekinesis way more than he had throughout the entire movie. There was a point where I understood him to be struggling with his powers and if he cared about him and how he wanted them to be included. And then when it got to be around Trinity, he used like 15 times in like 2 or 3 different scenes within like 20 minutes. And I was like, why the clunkiness here? And if you want me to appreciate him using it so much here, then introduce the trajectory in which now he is getting more comfortable with it and drive that home for me from a storytelling perspective. I mean, like I said, I'm getting pretty granular here, but I'm being serious. Like there's certain things that these characters are able to do, and if they're struggling emotionally with how they do it, that's cool shit. You know what I mean? I'm invested in how you're using your powers and when and why and what that means to you and how that affects everybody around you and how characters respond. And I didn't get that. I'm like, what? Why did Neo just use this thing 15,000 times here when I'm not even sure the story behind that? So, bam, yes, I'm glad y'all are feeling me. Thank you, Eldrin, for the 100 emojis. I'm glad you're feeling me. So, Black Space, go ahead.
Just to respond to that, I think it does, in a lot of ways, just mirror proximity and emotional height with Trinity, because that's how they use it in the first movie. That's honestly before he has great control of just being able to warp the rules of physics in the Matrix. It comes out at emotional peaks in the movies when there's something going on between him and Trinity. So I think they leaned kind of heavily into that without maybe explaining it the best way that they could in this movie.
Because there was many times where they met, and that's what I took away. As I said that's what I took away. I'm like, well, the only thing now is he's using it around Trinity, so maybe the point is that Trinity excites him and makes him feel like those high emotions. But I still wasn't committed to that.
It's not done particularly effectively
they didn't build up to that point well enough, though. You know what I mean?
I think that they touched on it in so many different ways, though. And so the fact that I think that they didn't build on it, but they did in like a weird way. So like obviously that was the blue eyeglass guy, Neil Patrick Harris. That was his program's job was to
Okay.
keep his focus on Trinity, to keep them apart. Neo
Okay.
ended up being focused on
Tiffany.
Trinity. The
Mhm.
whole, or excuse me, Tiffany. The whole like rescue mission ended up being focused on Trinity. And so like all this story, all this, you know, the
Okay.
actual what little activity we got was centered around her. She was the star, but at the same time, it in all the ways that this movie has failed, it failed in the same way with this aspect as well.
Yeah, and I think maybe I won't say that it fell flat. I'll take the responsibility and say it was lost on me. Because I was just like, tell
You
the
know, I don't like when you
story.
talk bad about yourself. You're a smart
Yeah,
boo.
and it's not, and
You're
I'm not
smart
even talking
boo.
bad. I'm gonna let the art be because, like I said, it's one of those things where I understand why, and I still don't think it was executed properly. So, you know what I
I
mean?
agree with you, hon.
So,
And I don't
yeah.
think it's a matter. I don't think it's a matter of disparaging the art by saying that
Right.
it wasn't done well. I think that the art in and of itself is why we're here and why we're even talking about it. Otherwise,
Right,
we
which
would
is
even
the power in of itself that we even
it's a
have so
power.
many. Right.
It's a power in and of itself that we're even talking about, and it's a power in and of itself that we can identify their efforts. But it's only fair, and you know, call me a Virgo, but it's only fair to call out adequate. I mean, like, you know, relevant critique that they called these things out. They set up these aspects of the story that lend themselves to this outcome or this, you know,
Correct.
this storyline, and then we never actually got it. And so I'm gonna go ahead
Yeah.
and start kind of sliding into the end, which and everyone's watched it, right? No one, if you haven't watched it, then hop out now. But at the very end, when it ends up being Trinity, when they jump off the building, and Trinity is the one that flies, not Neo. And they've been calling back to them being able to fly, or Neo being able to fly the whole time. But in this movie, it was Trinity that was able to fly. And also in this movie, at the end, it was Trinity who kicked Neil Patrick Harris's job, which is probably
Right.
my favorite part of the
And
whole movie.
sliced his throat. Yes, finally. We
But
got
because see,
again,
but that was the
you know,
only
my
callback.
issue that happens the last 10
It's
5 minutes
also
of the movie.
is it or is it not almost like a very wise friend told you that the last 30 minutes were the best part of the movie?
Right. So Black Space, I didn't want to let you finish. Go ahead. I know you didn't get to finish your point.
Oh,
but
I'm
you
so
just,
sorry.
Oh
No,
no,
you're
no.
good. No, you're good. You just kind of got us going. We're excited. Go ahead.
The only other thing I wanted to say is I was very interested that somebody brought up Shang-Chi because
Yes.
what my expectation would be of a Matrix movie in 2021 would be Shang-Chi choreography, because that's clearly
Exactly.
intentional, very, very detailed, very well shot, very well done. Actors were committed, they trained very hard. I don't know
You're
if it's
hitting
a
all the
product
points.
of, you
Well,
know,
Shang-Chi is Simu, I can't, is it Simu Lee? Is that his name? The Shang-Chi actor?
Yes.
yeah.
Simu Liu.
Yeah, well, he is in and of himself a martial artist, you know, so like that's his art, like that's his practice. So it's not just him as an actor acting it, that's also part of him.
Right.
Right.
Go ahead, Black Space. Finish.
The other thing I was going to say with regards to that, I don't know if it's a product of, not to be disrespectful to some of our more senior panel members or ever
All right, here
want to
you
call
go.
people here, but you know, Keanu Reeves has aged 20 years since he was doing this stuff, and you know,
My man has
Carrie Ann
survived.
Moss, same, you know, the rules apply. I would have liked them to maybe lean a little heavier into using a younger actor for Morpheus, because like, all right, you know, he could have, you know, stepped it up with the physicality if they used him in that way, if they wanted to go that direction. But
That was a failure. That was a failure on their part.
I had a lot of commentary about
Y'all
that.
had a lot of feedback from us.
Yeah, a lot of feedback.
or
I have
the
notes.
lack of y'all had a lot of feedback from us.
I have notes is basically what that was. Go ahead, Black Space.
that was all I had to say. I had to bring that aspect into it. I got to shoot the Wachowskis a little bit of bail, but
okay.
I have some qualms, you know.
Okay. Well,
we're
here for
that's
grace.
why we're here.
Yeah, we're here for grace, and so I definitely respect and appreciate, you know, everything you said about, you know, I'm 36, so I know what that feels like. Like I'm not as spry as I used to be, but I was also the first person to make fun of Neo and his shitty ass attempts at flight. Like, you're a little belly button now, big fella. Like, come on, dog.
I mean, and my qualm, right? And my qualm is from an acting perspective, and also from like a reality perspective. Like in both aspects, because I'm sorry, I'm gonna also say that there are older actors that act the fuck out on screen. Okay,
Denzel,
if they're
for better or
Willem
worse,
Dafoe.
he equalizes the fuck out of
okay.
niggas every movie.
So let's calm down just a little bit and just remember that even though the reality may be that you've aged 20 something years, I've seen motherfuckers do their damn thing for 20 motherfucking something years.
We knew where you were
And
going
it
to
ain't
land
like
on this. Thank
John
you,
Wick was that
Black.
long ago.
Thank you, Black, for being gracious towards people who aren't 20. Thank you.
So I was just like, I need to give me more. But yeah, so let's move into the Trinity aspect for the last 15 minutes. Let's move into the Trinity aspect. Paige, I did see your hand up. And if you guys want to come up, please, again, thank you so much for joining What We Watch. This is why we're here. You guys are fucking smart as hell. And again, to make a conversation so enjoyable, I really appreciate you guys joining my space. And you guys speak to the work that I do to make sure that we are able to talk about movies and film from a lot of perspectives and make the comparisons that we can to other projects and media that we consume. Film and TV is a reflection of who we are, what we know, our experiences. And, we're not just talking about fiction, and it has no bearing on what we know and love and understand and share and the relationships that we have. So, let me get off my soapbox. I love movies and TV, and I cannot believe that this movie was so mid. And someone tweeted me before we started this conversation, guys. Unfortunately, the mid is still selling. That's one. But someone tweeted me before and said this conversation is already better than the movie, and it hasn't even started yet. And as sarcastic and funny as they were being, I fully 100% agree. They were right. They spoke that in. This conversation about the movie has already been a better experience than the movie itself for me, and that's because of you guys.
2,000%. 2,000%.
I mean, I'm not going to say I have a newfound appreciation for the movie, but I definitely have a renewed, if it's even possible, appreciation for art and how we consume it, especially in film. So, Paige, before we get into the Trinity, I want you to get your bars off about Trinity, and then we'll wrap it up. But Paige, go ahead.
Yeah, I think what I'll have to say too will definitely lead into a deeper conversation on Trinity, because Trinity was also my second favorite character to Agent Smith, right? And as we said earlier, a great antagonist makes a better protagonist because we have better conflict that gives a better payoff in the story, right? And so as far as Trinity, one thing that I enjoyed so much about Trinity's character in the earlier movies was that she made so much of the movies feel more kinetic and dynamic. Even the way that she fought, the way that Carrie-Anne Moss took on the role of Trinity, she just added this very kinetic and dynamic energy to the film that was not present anywhere else. And so much of that was missing here. And I think that's more so a disservice to the script that she got, not really of her capabilities as an actor. And one thing then that I related to in her character when I was watching it, and okay, so Keanu or Neo was the initial one. Now you brought them both back. You reconstructed the both of them. Now Trinity is the one. But the bigger thing is that they're the one together. And I was thinking about that.
She's the zero, right?
Right.
I'll get to it. I'm gonna let him finish.
Right.
Yes, I got bars.
And I was thinking about that, and I was like, okay, I see the metaphor here, and this is where I was kind of going into the whole art imitates life part. Oh, okay, this is the metaphor for the Wachowskis' transition. Like the same way that they had this sort of transition themselves with gender, and so like that's kind of made into a metaphor in this movie where the Neo, where the one started as man and then moved into woman, but now moved into the together, like both kind of put together. And I was like, okay, this is interesting, but again, the execution was not well done, and it didn't feel earned. Trinity becoming the one didn't feel earned, which was why I wasn't impacted by that as much as I probably should have. I was like, great, slice that motherfucker's throat, kick him in the wall.
Let me jump in. Because I'm gonna cite your sources. Because Paige, I agree with you completely, and I want
look at all the 100 emojis going in the room.
Go for it. Go for it.
100 emojis because the minute she did, and I'm a very physical person, So I mean that in the context of I danced, I was a gymnast. So the physicality of the movies has always been intriguing to me. So the one move that Trinity did that I remember, and they did it in this movie, she did the overhead kick. So it's like she basically
Right.
okay. And so at that moment, I was like, okay, bitch, we bike. I was lit for that moment. And then, like you said, we didn't get any of the rest of the action. So she didn't earn it. Keep going. Keep going.
That's I'm telling you, spitting. Go ahead.
Yeah, it didn't feel earned, right? It didn't feel earned, and so like all of that, both the physical impact, the kinetic impact, but also the emotional impact ended up completely being lost. And with that, then it then made me go back to again thinking about what is the intention here, what is the narrative purpose here, what is the story mechanism that you're trying to employ, and what is the message that you're trying to get out of this. Because when you have both a convoluted premise and a complicated plot, you end up losing the audience. You end up losing the audience. It doesn't matter. It can be the coolest motherfucking shit you've ever seen in the world. But if the premise is too convoluted and the plot is too complicated, you end up losing the audience. And so I left this movie being like, okay, I guess they're the one, but I'm still not understanding what the purpose of the one in their togetherness is in this moment of the story.
Correct. That's literally right. I mean, and again, I brought it up earlier with the bodies falling. You just kind of repeated that. Like, again, there's some really cool moments, but you're going to lose me as a viewer because I'm not even invested in things don't feel earned. Yes. I fully agree. And to the extent that Mies, I want you to get your bars off about Trinity. To the extent that Trinity was such a pivotal character, but not just a pivotal character, but an important forcing the plot forward, important character that forced the plot forward, a lot of it just felt empty in some spots. And you can't let such an important character feel empty because I need to adhere to something in this movie that has me invested. I don't know. We all consume movies differently, but I adhere to something or someone in the movie. It doesn't always, there's cool movies that there's not always a character that you adhere to, but an idea or a concept or, like Parasite. I didn't adhere to any of the characters in Parasite, but what I did adhere to was the growth in the parasite itself, right? The metaphor it's in and of itself. And so when I'm watching The Matrix, I'm like, okay, Trinity seems to be very important. And then the next few questions as a normal person is how, why,
for what reason, where,
what's going to happen.
Cite your
okay,
sources.
because I can tell that she's important. So tell me why.
Tell me why,
how.
so that we can have that anchor, right?
Exactly.
We need that anchor. We need that anchor, so that we know how, so that we know what to track, right? The purpose of particularly the purpose of goals and both character goals or the overall goal is that it gives us something to track. It's like, okay, we know character A is trying to get from point 1 to point 2. We know the goal is point 2, so now we're trying to track their progression.
Do you write? Are you a writer?
I do. I am a writer.
I was
yes,
like, you're talking like a writer. I know how this is. This is exactly how we have to. Before you consume all of this art, we have to get to a point where we're explained, right? And this is how you do it. And so I'm wondering, someone brought it up earlier, maybe it was the writing, and that's probably what it is, because it's like there's a goal, and there's a motivation, and there are obstacles, and there are weaknesses, and there are strengths in characters. And so that's how you write them out. And then they come on screen, and all the other stuff that comes in, composition, acting, everything, directing, all that, gives you the product. And I'm just like, how did they write her out?
It was honestly, like, I think that the story may have started at the end and then they wrote it from there. That's what it gave me. It gave me that some things went out of order. And
I agree.
Mo, the whole time I was telling you to start at the last 45, 30 minutes. And I think that's because they knew where they wanted it to end up. And they just started from there and didn't necessarily finish filling in the gaps.
Because it was like,
I ain't a writer, but I don't fuck around with confusing plots.
absolutely, because I'm like, this movie is 2.5 hours. You're trying to
That's a
take
lot.
2.5 hours of my time. And it's not until an hour and 15 that Neo even gets to
It's 1:45, my love.
the people.
It's 1:45, my love. I posted. Don't worry. I know the exact number. It's
We had,
1:45.
if you scroll through the
Girl.
tweets, we are all on the
Look at-
same page. Why did I invest 2.5 hours for you to really turn shit up at 1 minute, 1 hour,
At
and
1 hour and 45 minutes.
Like on the dot, we got the Arthur fist where he was going, where Neo started acting like he was actually gonna do something, even though he still did that mini ass high with his belly button out. I was mad, y'all. I'm not gonna lie.
It's
The
the
edible
lack of
is no better for
commitment.
me.
And someone who is not a fan of Keanu, my friends were all like, "All right, Mo, Matrix 4 is coming out. This is it." John Wick, they had me. I was like, "No, that shit was fire." I saw John Wick in theaters. I was like, "No, that shit fire." I don't know if Keanu's my favorite. But then we went into Matrix and I watched that little, unfortunately, and I usually love going into movies blind, even with, there's a whole world building. Me, so you were hitting the money on that by using the word benefit. You have the benefit of the world built for you. And there were still so many failures, which was so bizarre to me.
How
But anyways,
you
I said that
start
to,
on third base and
oh
still
my
don't
God.
make a home run? Goddamn.
Oh my God. Oh my God. I don't understand that. But what I'm saying though is that just like there was the side. You know what? Y'all go ahead, because now I'm like I'm glad that you all have given me the vocabulary, because again, if you want me to be committed to a 2.5 hour movie, I will do it every single time. A lot of films, a lot of the writers, a lot of the we want to make a 2.5 hour movie. We get it. We understand them. 115 pages. You want it on film, and so get me committed. And I don't know. The Trinity
exactly
was beautifully created, I think, in many ways prior to this movie. And I think I don't understand.
I'm gonna be I'm gonna do some practicality.
Can you drop your binary bar though?
So the binary, and that's what I want to get at, is like, realistically speaking, and this is what it was. The binary, binary is 0 1 0 1 0 1, and Neo's always been emphasized as the 1, but this time we saw the emphasis on the 0. That's Trinity. She's
Right.
the 1.
Trinity is the 0. Yep.
She's the 0, and that's what's up, and that is profound. That is a beautiful thought.
Awesome.
That is an awesome thought, and I got that. I got that because I'm smart, and I got that because I had an edible in my system, and I was desperate for something. So
you was tapped in.
I did that more than y'all did. Like,
you was tapped into the Matrix.
Right.
Listen, you was plugged. You was plugged in.
You know what? I might have been, because I spotted the Blue program, the Neil Patrick Harris as the program. Like, as soon as I saw him with them glasses, I was like, "Oh, this nigga a program like a mug." But the thing about it is like, I love a little get you gotcha moment as much as the next person. But again, like we mentioned earlier,
you can't rely heavily on it.
You cannot over rely on that. And that's the first thing I said to everyone about this movie, was that it relied too heavily on previous genius or exposition or anything else that was not actually necessarily in the movie as much as it could have and should have been.
Right.
So instead they did the callbacks, which were fun for a little bit, and it was very meta, which I'm fine with. And I get the kind of irony of that, with Keanu making the statements that he was making about NFTs and doing the interviews he was doing, but that made it even more meta. So it just needed something a little bit more solid. Baby, you're not Mark Zuckerberg. You can't make this movie off this. Like, you gotta have us a little something more solid.
I have a question. In relation to what's this character's name? Blue-haired, that was played by
Bugs.
Bugs. There you go. Yes, Bugs.
Bunny.
Is it multiple Bugs? Okay, I kept calling it Bugs.
Right.
It's Bugs.
Okay.
It's another callback because she had the white bunny. So basically,
Because she had the white bunny, right? Bugs like bunny.
She was
Got it.
Trinity in this
She
version
did
of
say
the
that.
movie. And so you saw that she ended up being like Trinity's consciousness was put
Got
into her.
And I didn't understand that, because I was like, this feels lazy. This feels like lazy writing. This feels like.
I didn't understand the point.
Here's what's interesting. Here's what's interesting. Another, I guess, kind of establishing this as a movie, right? And a business. And there are people here that are doing work. Carrie Ann Moss, right? She's the actor that plays Trinity, right? Or Tiffany, whatever. She's pretty damn good. I'm not going to say she's my favorite. She doesn't come up in a lot of conversations, but for the most part, I've enjoyed her work. And so there's a dependence that when I see her on screen, I expect something from her. And so for the story to eventually, and I think Mies, I think you kind of probably hit it right on the money, because at the last 30 minutes is where I was like, okay, I've actually could have just watched whatever movie this was, the last 30 minutes here. If you could have made this an hour and a half, and I would have been invested. I would have had a lot nicer things to say. But if I'm watching Carrie Ann Moss, and even in the moments where I guess, and again, y'all correct me if I'm wrong, when they're not in the Matrix, she wasn't giving me anything. And I was trying to figure out why there was such a lack, because there's supposed to be a difference. There's supposed to be this kind of stark contrast with how people behave and react and respond to their environment outside of the Matrix. And then when they're in the Matrix, it's high energy, high stakes. Mies, I think you said a good word, high activity, blah, 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 blah. And so when I see this actress, I'm like, okay, not only is she written as to be somebody important, but we have the world building that we have with her before. And then I get to the last 30 minutes of this movie and I'm like, not even 30, let's talk about the last 10 minutes, her performance alongside Keanu. I am extremely attached to the importance of romance and love and everything, and how quite literally everything you've consumed has an ethics, has an ethos, and has an understanding of like romance and love. Like everything ends up being about romance and love, the motivation, everything. Name a movie, name a TV show. I will show you the romance and the love and how important it was into every driving factor. That's
facts.
That's my little take. Yeah.
As a resident love hater, that's facts.
And so to the extent that I enjoy romance so much and I find the importance there, and I'm also an agent of chaos, so I like that there's a little bit of a disturbance. You know what I mean? So I'm like, Trinity, let's do it. And I got it in the last 5 minutes of the movie. And I'm like, damn, I would have really appreciated a little bit more of a sprinkling and a peppering across this 2.5 hours.
Spread it out.
Give me a little bit more. Give me the drama of your face and your experience outside of the Matrix. Give it to me.
But again, I think that like when I was saying that they lean too heavily on the callbacks, that's what it was. Because like, so everyone knows the meme of Leonardo DiCaprio, and it's from what's the movie? Oh shit, it's the one about LA and
where he's pointing,
where he's pointing, and so everyone you know that feeling where you see something in the movie and you're like, I knew it, and so you see that a bunch, but you don't ever know it, you just see it. And it's just nothing. It's just like they keep throwing things at you, like little enticing bits, and it gets insulting after a while. Like, okay,
did this movie edge me?
I'm 36, but I can remember shit. So don't keep bringing the shit up from the trilogy and not doing something with it. Like I'm 36, but I'm not stupid, bro.
Edging only works if you let me finish. And I don't know. I feel like I was edged the entire movie.
And I can especially remember shit.
No, it's so sorry. No, go ahead. I don't need to expound upon that.
I was going to say that I can especially remember shit when it's available on the same fucking streaming website. I can literally just watch the other 3 movies and know what the fuck you're talking about. So if you're going to use all of these moments to make it be like, oh yeah, look at, they have a giant screen of Morpheus sitting in the seat. And oh yeah, Agent Smith, and these like random cuts to the older movies. And it's like, but what is this teaching me in the now? Nothing. It's not teaching me anything in the now.
It just goes back to our expectation. Like, yeah, the Matrix one was groundbreaking, and yeah, there was different things. But like Bam said, there's also groundbreaking things to do today. I mean, Shang-Chi, to me, I've seen tons of, that type of choreography and martial arts and stuff, and I was still blown the fuck away. Okay.
And also the story as well, because we have to acknowledge that in the Marvel universe, it got to a point where people were kind of like, it's the story. We're invested in the story. And for Shang-Chi to come out and be like not a part of the Avengers universe, which has so much traction, and then come out with fighting and story and acting and visuals.
And just visually beautiful, stunning.
And y'all did not. You're the Matrix and you did not.
Right. And I have to reiterate what you said. they had the benefit of the world being built already. It
You had one job.
It kind of worked against them, and it
You,
should have worked for them because
And I
we
think
were
that
already
you know
committed.
what's so nutty about them being in the Matrix though, and us being in 2021, the Matrix, they can literally do anything. We
Quite
just
literally anything.
watched Spider-Man: No Way Home, and no spoilers. But if you've seen
No spoilers.
I said no spoilers. But if you've seen Doctor Strange, you know about the mirror universe. If you've seen Inception, you know about cities flipping in on themselves. This is the Matrix, dog.
Thank you.
What are you doing, bro?
Wow me. Give me sexy.
Blow my
And I
mind.
think
I should be able to trip while sober.
Exactly. Go ahead. Jamel.
And I think it's important to really kind of acknowledge, because I think one thing that I guess you might say slightly diverge from some of the, especially previous conversations, is about whether or not, like, the cynicality that says, oh, well, this was a cash grab or something like that. I actually don't believe. I sometimes think that that's the automatic setting when things go wrong, but things go plenty wrong even sometimes when you put in your best work. And I feel as though that when you look at what they were aiming for, this was a kind of deal to me that more has to do with, through everything that everybody's explaining, and through, to me, what's in the text of getting the wrong focus. Having that on paper may look good, like this, like even like our beloved Lakers, on paper, it may sound, I get why it sounded good to you, but that in execution, it's going to actually look bad. And when,
And you know what
in particular,
it lacked cohesiveness and teamwork. Okay, now you
Mo
triggered
is
me now.
about to get
You're
pissed
gonna get me triggered. Now
and
this
I'm
is gonna be a
telling you,
Lakers space and not a Matrix space.
of course, I'm trying to back up all that my dang self, but when you're talking about to me, for instance, the focus on what I think was, to some extent, I read some of those callbacks as kind of the trauma of Reed's character Neo, having to be put back in here and then having to be shaken out of it. And that's what they were doing. They were kind of giving them like quick form, electroshock to, like, let's get you back into it, and then using the callbacks to do it. Clever, but time could have been better used to get back to, again, to me, what you yourself might have missed in what major movies. Because again, as you guys have explained, the emotionality, and I always talk about two characters actually being the most vital characters to why we love that series, and even to what the series is doing. And that is Morpheus as the faith and Trinity as the love. And so Morpheus is our way into the faith of everything that's going on, because he's the believer, and he's the only true believer in the entire movie. All the rest of it will crumble if we don't have him there to tell us why this is so important, why we're supposed to believe in Neo, what it's all about. So he's basically like a pastor in this sense, guiding us all, not just Neo, through this entirety of this thing. Then it's Trinity who acts as the person that ignites the story. Basically, if what's the name is the gas, then she's the match. And that both of those together are what ignites Neo, because again, a lot of the times when it wasn't Morpheus talking to Neo, it was Trinity training him, and in combination with her love for him, which wasn't given. And that's what was the danger of going this route where you're trying to put this thing, and exactly having to keep her like halfway through the movie, because supposedly she's locked in the Matrix and she doesn't know who she is. But to me, more time should have been spent having an alternative back and forth story of showing both her and what her existence feels like to her, as well as what it feels like to Neo, if your whole idea is that eventually they're supposed to come together and create this bond.
Exactly. Thank you so much.
Bars.
Thank you. Lady Sniper. Thank you. Exactly. And then Eldrin. Welcome, Lady Sniper.
Yo, so what I think is one of the big issues. Sorry. Oh, not my turn. Somebody else is gonna go.
Yeah, Lady Sniper.
Go ahead.
Lady Sniper.
And then
well,
Eldrin.
I was going to piggyback off of the last person who was speaking when he was speaking of Trinity and mentioning before when you mentioned her as the zero, which means she was always there.
The beginning.
So,
she's the root of it all.
She is the root of it all. So we're learning of her story, but we're finally learning of her being the zero to Neo's one. But beyond all of that, I feel like the Matrix itself was just too smart to do something like the callbacks, the cop out of the callbacks. We were expecting it to be way more inventive, just because that's
Yes.
how it was in the beginning. We were
Yes.
experiencing something totally new that we were not able to grasp onto this time, because instead they kind of hung off of the pop culture of everyone doing the Matrix moves and the leather jacket and the dust, they kind of rested on that instead of being inventive again and pushing us further into the future.
Inventive again, cop outs of the callback. You spitting. Yes. And like, because even, and somebody briefly mentioned wardrobe, and Elgin, I'll let you speak now. Here's the thing, the jackets and the cool shades and everything is very cool. Sit with that too. Wardrobe. Give me a jacket with a specific emblem or embroidery or something sexy and special there, because the wardrobe was also so much of the Matrix as well.
But let's
And
be clear. They did do that. Like, they gave you, like, one of the outfits
with Jada's they did.
No. It was Yaya specifically. That red and green. He had like a red. Okay, so here's the thing. His jackets were a little retro. His suits were very retro, like the cut and style of them were retro. But the color scheme of them, he did the red, like
and then
do
the
you remember
yellow.
No, it was the red and the green specifically, where when Morpheus got captured and they had to come through that window, like they shot into the window with the helicopter to rescue him. He had on a red suit. And so they did the same thing with Yaya. And so I thought, this was another Leo moment where I pointed, I was like, oh shit. And then nothing happened. So I thought that they were going to call back to that moment. And I think there was a bit of a rescue in there, but it didn't have the same gravitas, the same activity, the same action.
Right. When Morpheus came back first, wasn't he in like a yellow thing? And I remember being shocked by that wardrobe as well. And so maybe I did. Wasn't he in a yellow kind of thing the first time he met Neo?
When he was in the bathroom with the mirror.
He was in the bathroom and he had a yellow thing.
And I was
and was that a callback as well? And maybe I'm lacking that, and maybe maybe I was a little bit too harsh because Yaya's performance just really fell flat for me.
You're right.
But in the wardrobe, so maybe they did it in Yaya very well, and like you said, the storyline just kind of fell flat with that Morpheus, and it just maybe it didn't fall flat. Maybe it just didn't live up to the original Morpheus that we know and love.
Exactly. You're calling all right.
And so I feel like we should,
but it's still not enough.
Yeah, and so we should have I really should have felt a lot in the wardrobe as well. Like you're saying, Lady Sniper, it really is just what you said that really made me think about it. There was so much choreography, cinematography and all that, but also the wardrobe. It was inventive. So be inventive again. And I really like the way you said that. Be inventive again. Show me, like, I want to walk away from this Matrix like, yo. I mean, right? Like the Matrix, people dress up as Neo. I want people to dress up as the new Neo or Trinity now.
Carrie-Anne Moss, exactly.
Are we going to get that?
Glasses. And so the other thing is, like, I just feel like they tried at so many points. So like even when Yaya, because originally Yaya was an agent, and so he was acting as Morpheus, but he was in the program.
He was in the program, wasn't aware, and became aware, right? Something like that.
And so that was also convoluted and weird and a little, I guess.
And they didn't explain that to us either. They just put that in the first 15 minutes and was like, fine, let's leave it.
And then we were going. And
that's it.
But he also had on, obviously Morpheus's frameless glasses with no handles. That was like his
beautiful
thing.
call out.
And so we got funky glasses, but they were goofy and like they were a little bit like, I think they were very similar to ones that Bugs wore. So it just didn't do what it needs to do. It fell short in every way.
And I really like that Lady Sniper said, you're smarter than this. And I think
you are better than this.
That speaks to how much we depended on that. Eldrin, go ahead.
Yeah, I think on that point about being smart, I think that a big issue is that I don't think the producers, writers, could decide whether or not they wanted to address us as lay people or well-informed people. So the callbacks were really to say, hey, look, this is stuff that happened. Oh, look, this is the same program as this. This is the same person. This represents this. And that they're like calling it out explicitly. Whereas before we kind of, we had to do some work in the early or late 90s internet and Googling and people talking about biblical references and Greek references and names of ships. But now it's like, oh, we need to spoon feed you this. Oh, but wait, but there's also this other set of stories that you should know. So you're trying to find this middle ground that didn't serve anyone really well. So I think that was a big issue.
And as a creator, that's so sad, right? Like, you can almost appreciate, because you recognize between the first movie and the fourth movie, or even the third movie and the fourth movie, that there are things that if you do not go back and look at it, that we are going to explain here. And you said it perfectly. Somehow you went into the gray area of it and you didn't serve either side.
And the thing is, this is a sequel. It's different for like a remake,
Exactly.
like Total Recall or
Exactly.
RoboCop, or even another Keanu movie,
What, what is what
Day the Earth Stood
would
Still.
we include Blade in this one? Blade Runner?
Yeah, well,
This-
that was a sequel though, right? The
That was a
Blade
sequel, right? Yeah. Okay, so they
Yeah,
did a little bit better on it. Yeah, they just did a little bit better. I mean,
yeah. But
yeah.
even like Ghost in the Shell, that movie, I know a lot of people like kind of had a lot to say about that. I don't know who all in this space has seen that, but like there's certain context you can add, or even with like the X-Men films, even the first Spider-Man film,
Oh my God, yes.
there's
Yes.
always some context. Like we've now had three recent, in the past 20 years, Spider-Man like kind of universes, and like they've always had to tell an origin story.
And they
And
follow
like
a theme. Right.
yeah, like with here, they said, well, we kind of think you know the origin story, but here's some random stuff just in case. But here's also some stuff you probably don't know, but we're going to reference that too. So
And we're
it was a
also
weird mix.
right, and we're also not going to flesh out the stuff that you probably don't remember. We're also not going to go and do any callbacks, and then maybe you will understand it and appreciate it. And it's like, no, you can't sit in the middle here.
You know what
If
they did? They did the same thing that I don't know what company this is, but I know that I don't know if y'all have seen these Serena Williams commercials, like Serena Williams Matrix, Serena Williams Matrix, and they kind of go back and forth. It was the same kind of effect. I don't know if it's like a phone company or what, but
Was it
it's
the
like,
oh,
you know what I'm talking about?
was it the
I know
server
exactly what
commercial?
you're
I
talking
love
about.
commercials.
Yeah, Serena, where she's like, it's on purpose though, right? And you
Yeah,
can
yeah,
tell
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
on
yeah, yeah.
purpose. And I think that's your
Oh,
point that
and they
like,
also did it with Wonder Woman, like Serena Williams Wonder Woman,
Yes.
Serena Williams Wonder Woman. They did the same kind
It
of
right.
was
effect
was
in
it
this
an
movie.
Amazon? I think it might have been an Amazon.
Maybe.
Okay, anyway.
The discomfort that I felt in the beginning of Eternals with like callbacks and time frames and timelines, though not the same approach to time in the Matrix, as time is less of a thing and more just the realities and dimensions as Matrix, but the same concept of like having to call back and find parallels and explain why this thing matters. It, like you said, they kind of, the word that you, and I don't know if you noticed, but the word you chose was random, and it shouldn't be random. It should be necessary. It should be, integral to the storytelling. And they kind of just throw in some random ones. And Mies, you've been saying this whole time. It's like, okay, yes, I saw that. Yes, Leonardo DiCaprio point meme, and then nothing. And it's like, okay,
It's so frustrating.
okay,
So
so
frustrating.
you got me excited. That's why I was saying edging earlier. Like, you got me excited, and now what? What are we doing? What's going on here? So go ahead, Black Space.
Oh, on the context of the costumes and everything, I
Mhm.
remember outside of just the costumes in the original. Does anybody remember those Nokia phones that like it was the cell phone
Yes,
and you know how everybody wanted those back then?
I
Like
do.
there's
Were
not a
they?
moment like that in these.
Oh, you
Exactly.
know what? What?
I brought this up last night to someone. I said, do you remember Nokia phones and how there was like
Yeah,
wanting that, and
it
then
was a fancy new version of the phone though, and then this version they had like an old joint.
right? Did they have flip phones in this movie? Or did I make that
I
up?
thought they had flip phones. No, I think
Okay,
they
I
did,
saw
Mo.
that
I feel
too.
like there was a flip phone, and not in a cool way.
Now, it took me 7 days to watch this movie, so there's things
Listen,
that may or not have sat with me.
baby, this is hell week at work, so I don't be knowing what the fuck is going
So
on.
I feel like I saw flip phones, and to
You
Lady
did.
Sniper's point and Black Space's point,
Mhm.
be inventive, but be inventive again. So why didn't you wow me with some sort of cool thing? Bam, I think you said it well too, right? Like at this point, we're all just on the same page. Like
That would be if y'all were gonna be meta.
yeah, there's a Matrix in 2021, bro. That should be fucking wild. That should blow my mind. People jumping out of buildings on purpose. Like, guys, the scene where he was like, he jumped out and she was like screaming her head off. That in any other movie might have been a most incredible scene that would sit with so many people. In any other movie, he literally hopped out of bed after what was probably an intimate night.
He woke up,
and he woke up and killed himself.
and
Okay.
you didn't know what was happening, and then all of a sudden you see all these bodies falling
doing
out.
it.
It's reminiscent of Agent Smith, but without the gravitas,
But
without the score,
exactly.
without the effects, without any of it.
You didn't really sit with it. The people throwing themselves didn't land on anything.
Yeah, and it's such a tell
Why?
like the advancement of tech, how important it is to advance not only the story but the technology with it. When you look at a lot of sequels that worked after long gestation periods, so there was an actual real long period between Terminator 1 and Terminator 2, but then you see
My
how the
favorite
technology moving
franchise.
forward and that polyalloy or whatever that
Correct.
T1000 was really hinged and connected not only with the story but also in a wow factor that continued from what we first saw with all the kind of animatronics, which were ahead of their time for the day, but at the same time aged a little poorly. But its point is that you have to move forward. Same thing with the Jurassic Park movies, even though I don't think those do as well, and definitely with Mad Max, which it wasn't
Yes.
necessarily that technology, but the stunt coordination from the previous movies to this one was upped on a level that we had never seen. The things that they thought of to put in that movie, those Pike guys that were flying up and down on the sticks.
Again, I have to expound upon that experience in a movie theater was amazing. I don't know if you guys saw that movie in theaters, but it was amazing. And I think there was an expectation for The Matrix to give us that too in theaters. And I'm just like, you got me. So I just saw your tweet. See, that's what I'm talking about. You got these bodies falling everywhere. And I'm like, this is crazy. Who brought it up earlier? Was it Paige? I don't know if they're in the room anymore, but someone brought it up earlier. Everyone survived this entire movie.
Nobody
And
died,
that was
bro,
me.
and nobody
That was
got close
Bam.
to.
okay, bam. That's my point. Them bodies busting out, bombing, whatever, and after sex, and then going and drop. That should have blown my mind. I should have sat with that. We should have all been like, all of us should have had at one point in that movie text someone and be like, "Yo, this scene was wild. Remember that scene?" No, none of y'all even brought up that scene. I brought up that scene. I was like,
The only scene I
it
texted
should have
about
been.
was the half-ass
Yes,
jump with his belly button out. Like, it was the whack
yes. We were
shit.
just like,
It was
this
only the
is.
whack shit.
I think they want us to be. I was literally looking at it, and kind of in the quote unquote meta understand. I was like, I think they want us to think this is cool, and there's nothing happening though.
You
So as
know,
cool as it could have been, no one died. No one got fucked up in their. Again, where's my writer in the room? The goals. There's a goal in this moment in the last 30 minutes for some of the bots to do the swarming or whatever the hell's going on, and
Yup.
everyone's goal was just kind of unclear. No, there were obstacles, but not
bingo.
really.
Yup.
Keanu gave a half-ass jump, like you said, Mies. And I was just
And,
like,
You
I
and
can't
know
even
you
do a
want me to
cartwheel
and you
with
know
think
that
what
this is
jump.
bothers me?
cool.
What bothers me about that scene is
His belly button
besides
being out.
everything, besides belly button being out, I must block that from my mind because I don't even remember that.
I don't
Um,
remember that either. I was thinking that.
but it's just like bot swarming to me sounds like Walking Dead, zombies, World War Z, like it's zombies. That's what it sounds like. That's what it feels like. Like you really could have just ripped somebody apart, like just one person.
And the thing is, the fact that they should have been, because this is I don't want to say a callback, but this is similar to when Agent Smith would like look around and all evil more and start turning everyday people into
Right.
agents, assimilating. So
Right.
we didn't even get that effect. Y'all
Yeah.
niggas is jumping out windows and missing.
Like
I'm fed up. I'm
when they
sorry.
start when the swarm thing was initiated, I was like, oh, this is it. This is when
Yeah, we
people
about to
about to
turn
start
up.
throwing hands. This
Right,
about
we
to
about to
be,
turn up.
Nothing. Nada.
nothing.
And
Not
then
a
Not a
I was like,
single hand was thrown. Not a
Not a
single
hand
one.
I'm
was
telling you,
got me
thrown. Not a
hot
bow.
and ready and
this is the
just
point
left
where
me
I
there.
needed reinforcements, and I said, Mies, I need you to walk me through the rest of this movie because I can't do it. I can't keep doing this. I'm not gonna finish this movie, and I need to do what we watch on this, and I'm not gonna be able to finish it.
Well, that's why I mentioned the budget earlier because, like, with $190 million, you might expect some
Wait,
more serious,
they should.
Right.
action going
Wait,
on.
Elgin, really quickly, you mentioned the 100. I remember those numbers. I'm not really good at numbers. Is this more or less than the budget for previous films?
I guess I didn't take inflation into account,
Right.
but
Meh.
I mean the other. So the middle two were 150 million in 2003 dollars. But I guess it depends on your perspective, because you
Well,
could think
it's
of it as like a 4-hour movie that was $300 million because they were filming at the same time, both movies.
Right. That's what right. It's
I
really a
love that
4-hour
okay.
you're
movie.
Wait,
Right.
we're making the adjustments here. I love that. I
I
love
need
that,
you. I
Eldrin.
need you to tell me yes or I need a yes or no. Is this movie
Well,
was this movie budget bigger than the previous movies? I'm sorry, I'm not good at numbers.
I'm gonna pull up an inflation calculator. I'll be right back.
Okay.
I
Oh, you're
think
so sweet. You didn't
I
have to be
think
that. You didn't have to be that
and
accurate.
no,
I
and
appreciate
me
you.
again, what we watch, part of it is remembering that we are watching what is to be driven as a business, right? And so, like we were
Right.
saying, they've already made their money, and so I think that's a good question. I think it might be more,
So to be clear, I was
or
asking about budget, like how much money
yeah,
did they have to make, not how much money did they
and
make off the movies as revenue.
no, correct,
Okay.
and that's what Eldrin is talking
Okay,
about
perfect.
is the budget, but the budget in relation, which is all subjective, the budget in relation to what we got, the budget in relationship to what we enjoyed, the budget in relationship to what these scenes and where the money, right? Because there's pockets of money, there's buckets of money that go to different parts of the movie. How did that go towards what we enjoyed? So Eldrin,
But
as
I'm
you do the math, go ahead though, Paige.
but I'm not even sure if a bigger budget would have made a better movie. You know what I'm
But that's
saying?
the
Like,
I
problem, right?
mean,
That's what we're saying. I think
yeah,
that's what Eldrin is saying, though,
I
It
think
right?
was
so
Eldrin,
it
yeah.
too.
was
correct me if I'm
63
wrong.
it was 63 million for the first one, but they haven't released the budget for this current film.
Thank you, love.
And
Yes,
I
Lady
think that
Treasure.
it's very important to understand, though, to me, where that matters is that when you're talking about higher budgets, because number one, I think we have to understand and acknowledge the role that the change in the industry and all the changes in how the industry conducts itself that have happened since the first Matrix came out. Because I think the expectations we've seen too many times in these years, something that we rarely saw then, which is creative differences, a director's hired, and then all of a sudden it's like, fuck that. You guys are giving me way too many fucking notes. You're all up in my fucking business and you're fucking up my movie. And then, or vice versa. And the point being that I think that the Wachowskis, looking at their career as well, looking at the flops, I think they're in a different place than they were then, as far as not only just where their mind is at, but also how much power could they walk into that studio with. You know that Nolan, basically, they shut the fuck up and leave him the fuck alone because he keeps making them money when they do. And I don't know that the Wachowskis have that kind of lean. And I think this movie reeks, and somebody is kind of, several people I think have alluded to this, that it reeked of like studio interference in a lot of ways from, and trying to, somebody else talked about that too, trying to serve two masters at the same time.
Trying to serve, yes, indeed. That's exactly. I think Eldrin, or was it Sniper? I forget. But all of you got, at this point, guys, we're about to wrap up. At this point, I think we've really reached a beautiful consensus, even if we felt differently about the film, which is what these conversations about. Eldrin, I know you have an answer.
Yeah, so it's
Thank you for your follow-up.
Yeah, it's so the $150 million budget for the each of the middle movies was $150 million in those years, and it's equivalent to about $226 million in today's dollars. So the $190 million is less comparatively.
Thank
Damn,
you.
inflation
What a
is
diligent.
insane.
We love data.
Inflation is insane. 150 to 226. Are you serious?
Yeah.
Wow.
51% inflation over the last 20 years. That's a long time, though.
And
I mean,
to under.
I do data at Twitter, so this I was a math major, so this is I'm all
Perfect,
into
Eldrin.
data too.
I went to law school, not math school. If you ask
I
me
went
to
from
add, I'm gonna take
engineering,
offense.
physics, and math to writing. So
I
I
take
appreciate
offense if
that.
people asking me to do math.
Jamel, and I think Jamel, it ties into what you were saying too, because I think I don't know which calculator you're using, but inflation is and how it affects the industry too, right? Because we are talking about millions of dollars here. So I think that all gives credence to what we've been talking about. Is just right. So I guess now that we have that answer, there is a lower budget for this, which would tend for us, or which would have us tend towards being a little bit different about it, right? Because less money means you can quote unquote do less on its face, on the surface. That's your first mind, right? But then as you understand more, we've seen a lot of films that were very low budget that fucking, blew us out of the water, right? And that's just damn good fucking writing and directing, okay? And that's why I'm in there. But yeah, a movie like The Matrix, you got all this fucking money. Now I'm questioning what you did with it, okay? What did you do with it? Where was this happening? Why was it this? For me, the recurring theme is cohesive as we kind of close this conversation out. Again, I think finally, after the 77th reference, I think, Jamel, you made a reference to, what was it? It was the last thing you made a reference to. I was like, yep, that too. But I think when I was saying earlier, it was just like I felt like the first 30, 45 minutes I was watching a movie that was basically like Eternals, right? It was just like I'm sorry, not Eternals, Dune, where it's a bunch of exposition. So I do expect more. I know that you're just telling me and trying to figure out and trying to give me some information here. Got it. Then the second part felt like a TV show, not only in the way it was like acted, but also like directed and the cinematography. I'm telling you, go watch any episode of any show where they're like a spy is getting caught or some mole is we're trying to figure out, or like anybody's fighting a few people in a building. Anyone. I'm telling you, the Matrix Act 2 with the exiles and all looked exactly like that. The lighting was exactly like it. The camera going from this person to that person. It did not feel like a cohesive movie in which Shang-Chi or The Raid or movies like that, incorporate the fight scenes as an integral part of the movie. It felt like a very separate part. It felt like a TV show. And then the end, which was strong, which a lot of movies, I don't know if you think back to a lot of movies that you've talked about, if you've been in what we watch spaces, a lot of times people complain about the end of a movie. Damn it, I loved everything, and then the end was weird, right? You're probably thinking of like 2 or 3 movies right now where you're like, damn it, I loved it until the end. This, for some reason, was the exact opposite, which for me, it works because that's why they were able to, because what sits with me is the end of a movie, and that's why it works to where I have not said that I hate the movie, which I think without the last 30 minutes, with a little bit of understanding, with Priyanka Chopra stepping in, with Trinity doing a little bit more fucking shit, with Keanu doing a little bit fucking more. Jesus Christ, do something. Jesus Christ, like. I felt like I earned a little bit more. I think, Paige, you were saying that earlier. I felt like I earned something at the end, just a little bit. It still wasn't enough. It still fell flat. There was still a lot of stuff missing, but that made me walk away like, okay. And I think I said it again. I said it before, but I'll say it again. It did feel like they knew that part of the movie from the time that they started talking about it. Elgin, I think you said it was like February 2020. From that part, they knew that last 30 minutes was going to be that. And then the rest was just kind of filmed at different parts and just kind of maybe filled in or whatever they wanted to do, because there was just so much cool stuff that you can do with the fucking Matrix in 2021. Like, that shit has to be fucking cool as shit. Like, that's cool. And I think that's why we all were so committed and so invested. We were like, yo, we're definitely watching this, right? They made their money off of us already. And so for it to just fall flat in so many ways for me was just really, really weird. And I know that I don't want to overuse the term fall flat. I know there's other ways to explain that, but I don't.
Flat.
Right. Yeah. And didn't hit anything. So there was no point in it. Like, again, I just feel like that was a legendary scene that is not ever going to be legendary. It's not going to go down any history of anything because nothing happened. That's amazing. I need someone else to do that. I need someone else to have a series of people jumping out of buildings, down into one road, central in a very big city, out of windows and glass shattering, and just had sex. Like, that's awesome. That's cool. But I need something to happen at that point.
We gotta get some.
Yeah. So thank you guys for joining. This was amazing. Y'all are amazing. I hope y'all can join the future spaces. Thank you, Mies, my lovely co-host. I hope you enjoyed and respected everyone's thoughts, even in disagreements.
Y'all did amazing. Y'all, I did not disagree that much. Like, truthfully and honestly,
I love it. I mean, but even disagreements, you know what I say, that means you were listening intently, and so that's a gift in and of itself. So thank you guys so much. Please follow What We Watch Film TV. Please hashtag What We Watch with any of your thoughts, and feel free to DM me. If you click on my profile, I have a newsletter, and that's where I kind of push out what we're going to talk about next week. And I have some.
Are we gonna? Are you gonna tell them about the stuff?
I am. So we've been in here 3 hours. I should have done it maybe like hour and a half. However, we're still gonna have a few more spaces. I do this twice a week, Mondays and Wednesdays. I'm gonna have a watch party, and it's not just your normal watch party. It's a very sexy watch party. I think Mies has done like the groundwork for me to kind of like preliminary, what are the obstacles? What are we going to have to do? But just so you know, we're going to watch a movie, and it's a movie that you love. I'm not going to say what it is, but it's a movie that you love. We're going to watch it together. We're going to be in a chat room together. We're going to talk about everything and share all of our beautiful brains and our minds and our unique perspectives on a movie that we all know and love. And so I need you guys to have, number one, Google Chrome. Share with your friends. It's going to be the first Wednesday, since it's what we watch Wednesdays. First Wednesday of the year, which is next week. I need you to have Google Chrome. I need you to have HBO Max. Just get you a free trial for a month. What'd you say, Mies?
I said woo woo.
And then I need you to, if you can, I need you to have a laptop. You cannot do this mobile. Twitter Spaces is optimized for mobile.
You also can't do it on iPads.
And you can't, right?
Sometimes they let you access the
desktop. No. So I need you to have a laptop. And I any kind of laptop, MacBook or whatever. I need you to have a laptop. I need you to have Google Chrome. I need you to have HBO Max and join the party. It's going to be amazing. It's really cool what they're doing here. And I'll give you the extensions and the information and the link to join. But it's a limited access. I want to see how we do this first time with a limited amount of people to make sure that I can moderate it appropriately. But it's going to be super fucking fun. So
fucking cool.
It's so fucking cool. So
I'm so lit.
Definitely
I'm so
tap
sorry.
in for that. It is. You were my guinea pig, and even you had a good time. So
I'm so excited.
It was very fun. So thank you guys for joining. Tell your friends, family. We're here every Wednesday, and I do it twice a week, Mondays and Wednesdays. I don't know what we're talking about next. Monday is going to be the first Monday after New Year's. I
have
don't know.
ideas.
We don't only talk about the films and shows. Sometimes we have some trivia as far as it goes with like movies and franchises as a whole. Sometimes we do discussions about specific genres. Sometimes we do discussions about specific composers, directors. We look at a body of work of an actor or whatever the case may be. Jamel has been a winner before at one of our games. Jamel, you know how it's not always just about one show or one film. And even when we do talk about one show or one film, you see the numerous references that we all brought up. And that's the beauty of enjoying #what we watch. So thank you guys. You're amazing. Bye. Follow each other and connect.
Ciao.
You're awesome.
Mo, call me.
I will. Bye.